Ladies and gentlemen, there is a special place in hell for Adolf Hitler. And that place is packed! Welcome to the show, everyone. Oh, hey, Mad Cat just joined just in time. Can you hear me, Mad Cat? Mad Cat?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. You missed my amazing joke. That's like Tonight Show worthy.
I thought I was coming into a pre-show. I wasn't like fully ready yet.
Oh, sorry. Like, I was running late as well, so we couldn't really do a pre-show.
Alright, well, try to fake it then.
You guys can blame me. I'm a honey badger. I had to bring my technical difficulties with me, and so we're late because of that, right? Just say yes.
Well, it's all the woman's fault. I mean,
Dude, no, I'm a rock star. Rock stars always start late. Seriously, if there's ever like, if you're going to like a live show, if they say they start, they say they start at 6 o'clock, it starts at 7:30.
Oh God, that would drive me nuts.
Yeah, like I haven't played shows this year, but like last year I played like I think 6 or 7 shows. And so, like, I was unknown, so every show I played, like, I was either the first person playing or the last person playing. Oh, that's a good point. So, like, whenever I started playing, there was only, like, 2 or 3 people in the crowd. Let's see, where's that? Oh, crap. Give me a second. I'm going to find a link to the actual show itself.
To watch the chat.
Well, I'm gonna send it to people, so I mean, I have the chat popped out, and I can just look at it. Where I see you say starting soon.
That's cool.
you got a vacuum machine going on there?
No, that's my computer. It's going nuts right now. It's a fan.
Well, I guess that's what happens when you have a three-way. You overwork your PC.
That is just so not PC. It's confused.
Oh dang! I think you can like really hear it through the on the actual stream.
Yeah.
No, yes.
Oh god, that's
If you move
terrible.
your mic, it sounds like a vacuum cleaner right next to the microphone.
I know, and that worries me about your computer. I thought mine was bad.
Oh my god.
Well, if the mic is right next to it, it's going to be really loud. But it does. It sounds like you're doing the show while you're vacuuming your living room.
Oh, that sucks.
I was afraid I was going to have that problem because I didn't know. I got a USB mic here that's it's part of my headphone set, and I didn't know if it was going to work with the Chromebook because it's not working with my computer. And so I thought, they're all going to hear my air conditioning. They're going to hear the door open when my husband comes home. That's going to be great. I'm so unprofessional. And then your fan sabotaged you.
Well, did you get your computer working?
Got the computer working. It's actually a newer unit. We've got the old hard drive in it. There's still problems. And if I plug a mic into that computer, it has terrible static. Apparently it's really loud, but I can't hear it at my end. And I haven't tested it out with my video software to find out. So, fun times. But see, I am the queen of technical problems, because I had to go and get my computer struck by lightning.
I'm gonna mute myself real quick. Just
Alright. When?
Yeah, you know, when I was in Ohio, I actually felt like I got struck by lightning. I guess it might have been at the same time, I don't know, but I was... Oh, people are still here, okay.
Yes.
I was holding my laptop at the time, and there was a thunderstorm going out, and I just felt like a static shock while holding my laptop. I'm like, that's never happened before. I wonder if that's what knocked out your power.
Yeah, what I found out was it struck something in my neighborhood, and from whatever it struck, it arced into the power lines. I'm not clear from the person who explained it to me, I'm not clear on whether it hit the lines or if it hit a transistor or if it hit, something else, but it actually ended up going through the power lines. It went into several residences. There's other people in the neighborhood complaining about things being lightning damaged. And of course, if the computer had been, something new and something that had a financial value we could attach to it, I would have been able to get it replaced by insurance. But since most of what I was using was cobbled together from used parts we got at Goodwill, it's not exactly the same to the insurance company. They don't want to. So I'm stuck trying to re-Frankenputer the Frankenputer, and the person in my house that's the expert at that is my husband, not me. So
Yeah, I met that guy. Very sweet, very quiet. I always feel like he's like waiting for me to turn my back so he could stab me.
no, not in the least. He is definitely sweet and he is definitely quiet, but
A little too quiet, if you ask me. No,
well,
he's pretty fun though.
so far, he's never stabbed anybody that I know of. And if anybody asks, that's what I would say anyway.
Well, obviously you love him.
Yeah. But no, my husband is really an awesome guy. He is very kind-hearted and loving, and one of those people that like I aspire to be a better person, so he'll be proud of me. But I can brag about him all night, and I'm sure everybody doesn't want to hear that.
No, please, go on. I want to hear more about this awesome husband you apparently have.
Well, actually, he probably doesn't want me talking about him too much online either. Just other than to say that, like I said, I think he's awesome. This is something that I actually could get into, something we talked about on Honey Badger Radio recently. How many women don't say that about their husbands when they're talking to their friends, or they say the opposite. Like, you married the guy, you decided you wanted to spend the rest of your life with him, and then as soon as you're away from him and you're talking to the gals like he's the devil. And what's wrong with the mentality there that gets women to do that?
Well, I think that's women in general, though. I mean, when women are in proximity of each other, they'll say a lot of nice things to each other. The moment one leaves the herd, all the women will start gossiping about, how horrible she is.
Yeah, I kind of eliminated a lot of my group of friends over crap like that when I was going through high school and college and stuff, and I managed to get myself into a small but very good group of guys and gals that's not the way we treat each other. If we get worried about somebody, like somebody's not been well or somebody's not dealing with a situation in a way that's healthy and safe, and they might, we're afraid they're going to get hurt, then we'll talk about, what can we do to help this person, what's ethical that we can do to help this person, things like that, but not, geez, this person sucks, she's such a slut, or she's such a, I don't know, what else do rotten things do gals say about each other? I got made fun of for being a nerd all the time, which we can't really call each other nerds as a derogatory term, because we'd just be, it splashed right back on ourselves. So
Well,
most
of course,
of us play D&D together.
Call each other sluts, tramps, trying to get male attention, trying to steal
Yeah.
a friend. A lot of it is cliched, but at the same time, there's a reason why it's cliched, because it's used a lot.
Yep, that it is. And it is easier for women to get away with that, too. Because when a guy does it, all a gal really has to do is act sweet and innocent and maybe pretend she doesn't understand what he's trying to say about her and ask him to explain. And it takes the wind right out of his sails, because then he has to talk about it, and all of a sudden he's the bad guy and he realizes it. But when another gal does it, she'll just blatantly go right on. Oh, you want me to explain? Okay, you know, there's a gap between your legs so wide you could drive a truck through it. Is that better? And you're not gonna get out of that. It's gonna get worse and worse.
Are we talking like a Tonka trunk or a big rig? Because Tonka trunk I can understand, but a big rig, yeah, I don't think you understand how to measure things properly.
No, and of course I used to also have friends that would like razz each other like that, and they were just joking around. They weren't trying to be mean or anything. But
well,
that's a different thing.
That guys do with each other. We razz each other. We'll make fun of each other right to our faces.
Yeah.
It's not that we're trying to demoralize someone. It's just something we do to all of them. And this is something that I've tried to explain to some of my more social justice warrior friends about, like, the lobbies of video games, like Halo matches or Call of Duty or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever these kids are playing these days. And yeah, there's a lot of, like, really bad language going around. A lot of people throwing insults. Oh, you fucking fag, I fucked your mother, what have you. But it's not that they hate each other. It's not that they hate women either. It's just what they do. And she was convinced that we had to censor what people said, that we had to ban it altogether because it might hurt someone's feelings. And I'm like, if it hurts someone's feelings, they don't have to be there.
Yeah, well, you know how I am about that. I fucking hate censorship.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
And your fan is not loud. We cannot hear the fan.
Oh,
well, we can hear it in the background.
It's like a slow hum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a refrigerator you hear in the background.
Oh, okay.
But not Refrigerator Perry.
Refrigerator what?
Refrigerator Perry.
I've never heard of Refrigerator Perry.
Oh God, I'm old. Never mind.
You gonna leave us hanging on? You gotta explain what Refrigerator Perry is?
No, the refrigerator. God, I can't even remember which team he played for now. You threw me off. No, he was a football player from before your time.
Why? How old is he?
Oh God, I think the song about him came out in the 80s.
No, I mean our host.
Oh. I'm 28.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, it would be.
He played football when you were a baby.
To be fair, like, even if he was playing football nowadays, I still probably wouldn't have heard about him, so I'm not into sports.
Well, to be fair, I wouldn't know who he is either if he played today. Like, I didn't even know who Ray Rice was until someone's like, he's a football player. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I have no idea who he is. But back in the day, I tend to know sports teams because my parents were convinced the only way people would like me is if I watched sports.
Well, there were a few football players here and there that became very, very, very famous, and of course they, like, the main reason I should say, it's not the only reason, but the main reason I knew that one's name, I remembered his name was because of the song and all the hype around him and everything. But all the guys I hung out with when I was growing up were either on the football team or big fans of the football team, so I kind of heard about it all the time. And I was the one doing the photography for the yearbook and for some of the photography for the newspaper for the team and so on.
Oh, yeah.
So
the fans going nuts again. He's coming.
Yep.
Well, you got one of our fans. I don't know whose fan she is, but you got NC Clark in the room. So.
Oh,
seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Why are you surprised?
I'm honestly surprised anybody's watching this, to be honest.
Well, I tweeted the hell out of it.
Ah, thanks.
I tweeted it out, so.
I tweeted as 2 trending hashtags too, but I don't know if that tweet got seen all that much.
Yeah, I usually tweet to men's rights and feminism is cancer.
Yeah.
Well, what's NC saying?
Hey guys, and message retracted. I don't know what the previous message was. I didn't know you could do that. Delete your message from the chat.
What the?
Apparently,
You know,
yeah. Or
either
she
that or
typed in message retracted, which she would do.
either that or she put a link in it and Google was like, nope, you can't have that.
Oh yeah, that might have been what the case was.
Yeah. Google sucks.
Is she our one viewer?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yay!
Tell her I said hi.
I think
I'm
she
sure she
probably
can
heard
hear
you.
Yeah.
Dork.
By the way, NC Clark, our host today, said hi in case you missed it.
Oh, by the way, can you guys see what's going on? What I'm doing? What do you guys see on the screen?
I have no idea what you're doing. All I see is a guitar and vocals.
Yes, vocals.
Oh, kills.
They're vocals, but they're vocals.
I see.
It's stupid, but I love doing it anyway.
Disappointed in you in chopping up our English language. I'm a writer, so that's why.
It's the metal version of English.
Oh, I thought
Vocals.
instrument had a second I in it. So, what are we going to talk about today? Right, Lord?
Oh, we can say about whatever we want. I'm talking about where we want. There's really not much of a topic.
Well, I'm loving this whole cocks for glocks. That is just cracking me.
What?
Have
Wait,
you not heard about this?
is there a hashtag full of cocks?
No, it's a protest at University of Texas, I think.
Yeah.
I think there is a hashtag, though, but basically, these protesters are against concealed carry, because now, I guess, Texas has allowed for college students to conceal carry.
I read about that.
Protesters are so angry about it, they're like, well, we're going to display dildos, because these are illegal, and we don't want concealed carry to be illegal. And it's like, you have completely fucked this up.
That's hilarious, though. But I thought you said blocks as in BLOCK, like blockbot blocks, and not glocks with a G. So I'm like, is there a hashtag? That's why. Because I thought people were like responding to getting blocked by posting dick pics, and I was going,
I would support that. Let's make it a hashtag.
That would be hilarious. Especially since the person blocking you wouldn't see it.
Blocks for cocks.
Yeah, on Facebook, somebody posted a video of like this like little girl. It was basically the same situation. Like they were bringing like dildos to school or whatever to protest that thing that you guys were just talking about. Well, anyway, it's like a picture of like it's a video of like this little girl. She's with a group of people. She's probably about like 13, 14. I'm not the best at gauging people's ages, but she didn't look like she was over the age of 18, but she didn't look too young either. And she had like this giant black dildo. And like, I only watched a little bit because it got really uncomfortable real quick. But anyway, she was like,
the funny part.
hold on, I'm not quite done. Let me finish, right?
I was gonna say, what's so uncomfortable about watching a 13-year-old carry around a giant black dildo? Gee, I wonder.
Anyway, she said like, well, if you can bring a gun to school, like it says something like, it's legal to bring a gun to school, but it's not legal to bring one of these bad boys to school. And she like tapped on the tip of it.
Oh, I saw that video. She wasn't 13. She was a junior.
Oh, really?
At this school. Yeah.
Oh, was it like a high school or a college? What, say again?
She's over the age of 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, where I was going with is like, when I started the story, I thought she was under the age of 18. So anyway, I was like, this video is going to end up on Pornhub. I hope they're aware of that.
No, yeah.
Well, no, the thing I was going to say, and this is a point that I've made, is that if there was even one person there under the age of 18, legally they should be all charged for indecent exposure and also register on a sex offenders list. Because
Legal,
that's why
yeah.
this is illegal, is you're exposing sexual imagery or even sexual fetish toys to the general public, which is illegal.
Yeah, the only person that's allowed to expose children to sexual images like that is their sex ed teacher. And they're actually allowed to fully traumatize an entire classroom at a time.
Well, that's why we send children to school, to be traumatized.
To be traumatized. Yeah. But yeah, it's technically, yeah, you're right. Technically, that would constitute a sex offense, and it's the kind of thing like men get taken on those kind of technicalities all the time. You know, they go out behind a bar at the end of the night when the bar closes, and they still have to pee, and they pee on the brick wall behind the bar in the middle of an alley in the dark where nobody else is, but a cop goes back there and sees them. They get busted for indecent exposure, and they end up on a sex offender list. You know, and it's the same list they would put you on if you did it at the park in front of kids.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference is they don't label your offense an offense against any minors. It's just indecent exposure. But it's crazy.
Well, here's another point, and I actually want to read N.C. Clark's point on this, which kind of segues into my point. She says it's conceal and carry. So she should conceal and carry the dildo, not carry it around like a keychain. You need to put it in a natural holster.
There we go.
But the basic argument here is they're against people conceal carrying a firearm, which you don't really know someone is doing it unless they specifically say, I'm carrying a firearm. Like, they could keep it in their backpack, unless it's very obvious. So their protest is to say, we're publicly displaying something illegal as our way of fighting against something that you don't see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty stupid. The whole thing is really stupid.
I made the point of saying that's like saying you want to legalize marijuana by leaving bloody tampons everywhere on the ground. One has nothing to do with the other. We're talking about two completely different things here, and yet I think, here's what I actually think. Because most people who would engage in concealed carry are men. They're trying to emasculate the men, saying, hey, here's a bigger dick than you have. I think that's what this whole thing is.
Yeah, and it's really a stupid issue to begin with, because they're acting like there's a danger if somebody can conceal carry on the campus. But what you're subjected to as far as background check, and you have to take training and everything, you get evaluated to be concealed carry. You may not know you're being evaluated, but if somebody's teaching you gun safety in a class, they're not going to pass you if they think that you're dangerous and stupid. You know, they're going to pass you as long as you're doing a good job in the class and you're learning gun safety and you're exhibiting a good attitude towards carrying that gun. Because they're going to be responsible to a degree if they give you good marks and then you turn around and go to school and shoot everybody up. But they're not in danger from people who are actually going to have the license and the education and everything to conceal carry. But somebody who is concealed carrying or even open carrying might be able to stop a shooter who is a danger. You know, if there had been anybody in the building who was a trained carrier of a gun, say at Columbine or at any of the other schools that have had a school shooting, there had been one person who could have shot back at the person who was shooting students and teachers, it's entirely possible that they could have saved the majority of the students and teachers that were shot. You know, they might not have been able to save the very first people that were shot because they might not have known anything was going on until people started getting shot. But at the very least, they would have an equalizer to stop the person from continuing to shoot. You know,
Well,
and in some instances, all it takes is pointing a gun back to get the other person to point their gun down, you know, or put their gun on the ground, and then nobody has to shoot anybody.
Well, this is something I actually hear from a lot of my alt-left friends. I have a lot of people in my life that disagree with me, but they say that there's never, ever been an incident perspective, has ever stopped a mass shooting. And it's like, well,
Mad Cat, you're cutting
one,
out.
Oh,
See, there's never been an incident that what?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but there's never been an incident with what?
There's never been an incident in where someone who was allowed to carry a firearm has prevented a mass shooting. And one, it would never be reported on the news if that was the case. But second, well, yeah, it wouldn't be reported as a mass shooting because after they killed one person, someone took out their gun and shot them. In fact, there's actually many videos online showing exactly that, where someone walks into a crowd, like into a store, and shoots one person, and another person shoots them. In order for it to be a mass shooting, correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah, I think you have to kill 4 people, or you have to shoot
3.
4 people. 3?
3. They call
so
three people as a mass shooting.
Shot themselves. We don't necessarily know that they stopped a mass shooting. They may have continued more, and may have stopped at 2.
Yeah.
But I'd still rather people have guns.
See, that's typical though of like prohibitionists of every prohibitionist sect that I've run into. There's still people that are alcohol prohibitionists. There's drug prohibitionists. You know, they will say something like that, where they'll make an unfalsifiable statement and then demand that you prove them wrong. And I've always, like, when I am confronted with that, I'll ask for evidence. And it has to be more evidence than just somebody wrote an article saying that this is true. It has to be, you know, concrete, solid evidence that this does not work. That, you know, they got to show me where somebody has been there with a concealed weapon or an open carry weapon and just done nothing when somebody opened fire and started shooting people.
Well, and that was actually an interesting thing on that video that we were just talking about, where this woman is like spouting off something nonsensical, and I wish I was there, so I'm like, can I get a reference on that? Because she said that it has been proven, or something to effect, that when a gun is present in any situation, it increases the chance of sexual assault.
What?
I'm like, what?
Okay, I used to have a gun. I had to give it to my brother when my son was born because I didn't have a safe place to keep it where I would know he wouldn't get a hold of it. You know, but I used to have a gun. I used to go to the shooting range. I used to do target practice and everything. I think there were probably about 20 guns there minimum. You know, people with at any given time. It was a pretty popular thing to do. And I was almost always the only woman who was actually shooting. So, I mean, there were usually wives there that didn't shoot, or, you know, there were wives there that did shoot, and sometimes there were girlfriends there that did shoot. There weren't very many women there by themselves. But yeah, I don't think a single rape ever happened on the premises.
That you know of.
Yeah, not that I know of. You know, maybe the guys had a thing for each other. I doubt it, but you know, I never had any problem.
So let me get this straight, Hannah. You have a gun and you practice with it. Will you marry me? Oh wait, you're already married.
There you go. But I can perform your wedding ceremony when you do get married. I just have to show up in full pirate regalia.
We need to legalize 3 ways.
Well, we talked about that already, and the girl that I'm sort of interested in right now wants to be at her wedding in Princess Leia costume and wants me as Captain Kirk, so...
Oh, well, in that case, I'll have to dress as a space pirate.
Well, you need a dump her.
Still a pirate.
Why would you be merging 2 different universes, like Captain Kirk and Leia? Come on.
Because she's more of a Star Wars fan, and I hate Star Wars, but I love Star Trek, so it works out.
It's a treaty.
Work out, though? A treaty.
It's a treaty between the 2 worlds of nerds.
I haven't seen all the Star Trek episodes or Next Generation episodes, but so far my favorite has to be the one where what is this, number 2? Was it Rikers? He goes onto that Klingon ship as like some type of officer trading program, and so
Officer Exchange, yeah.
Yeah, Officer Exchange. And,
yeah, it was a good episode. I like that one. I have seen all of Star Trek except the animated series, so...
Yeah,
but that doesn't count.
They didn't explicitly state it, But I think he banged that Klingon chick. The one that offered to breastfeed him. Well, I like the silence that statement caused.
No, I'm reading a comment by Samich. Great to see you. He's like, I'm
Hi,
afraid that those anti-gun cunts were not distributing fleshlights as well, so it's quite sexist.
Yeah, that is pretty sexist. I mean, there are women who concealed carry too. You know, and there may be mostly men, but there are women who could. In fact, there are women who conceal carry because feminists have scared the shit out of them, and they think that if they go anywhere without a gun, they're going to get raped.
Well, it helps out the pro-gun crowd.
Yeah, it does help out the pro-gun crowd.
If a bunch of women start like buying guns en masse, like this whole anti-gun rhetoric would go down a lot. I'm not saying it'll disappear, but it'll go down a lot.
See, I think some of it has to do with the attitudes of authoritarian social micromanagement, which is a mouthful, but essentially they don't want people to be able to. They don't want people to be able to do what the Bundy family did. They don't want them resisting the government. They don't want them, you know, not just not taking over buildings and stuff like that. They don't want them telling people to get off their land. You know, they don't want that. So, like, there's a segment within the gun control crowd that is using the issue more in terms of you know, trying to prevent militias and trying to prevent, you know, people from having the ability to resist in the case of an authoritarian government.
Well, you know, my whole issue with this is nothing but shock value. They're not actually trying to get anything done. If anything, they're just trying to get their name in the media, but in a week or two, people are going to completely forget about this. And their basic argument is, well, because it's illegal to have dildos hanging out in public, we should make it illegal to have concealed carry. And if they made the argument, look, this is a place of learning and we should be a gun-free zone, I think that's more of a discussion to have. I disagree with it, but it would be a more valid point. This is just, hey, we're going to get cocks and wave them about and get everyone to touch them and get on the news, and we'll insert some sort of PC bullshit about guns and whatnot. That's all this is, just a professional stunt.
If a bunch of men on campus had thought of the stunt first and had made it a protest against circumcision, the same women that were running around carrying dildos all over campus probably would have been like, you know, freaking out and calling it rape culture, and, you know, they're displaying penises all over campus and we're scandalized. Oh my God! But yeah, because that was their idea, and they get to be on the news, and they get to be, you know, racy in public and everything. It's just like the slut walk. The slut walk is almost, at this point, it's basically just an excuse to dress slutty and go out in public and show off. You know, it's really not political anymore. It's just a big party.
For the record, I think they should allow sex toys in schools, or at least colleges, you know. That way you can release tests right before the test.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, I'm loving this sandwich here. He's saying implants, not grenades.
There we go. Analogy fail. Yeah, it is an analogy fail, because I have not yet heard of a single person who has been shot to death by a dildo. I mean, I've run into a few dildos that...
salami once. There was an actual summer sausage and someone started whipping me with it. Does that count?
I suppose. You didn't die, though, so no.
I died a little inside.
Here we go. Yeah, that is not what the salami is supposed to be for.
Yeah, as far as that analogy of like the dildos and the guns, is like, I don't think they're gonna be happy if they just legalize dildos on college. So it's like they're just kind of stupid. I mean, like, people use this fallacy. I mean, I got an article from my mom about like legalization of weed, and like I was like, people shouldn't go to jail for smoking weed, and her response was, well, people shouldn't go to jail for speeding. And I'm thinking, like, you know,
they don't generally.
Well, like, let's say for the sake that it's actually true, people do go to jail for speeding. It's like, those are two different things. Like the effects of people going around smoking weed, and, like that's gonna have one effect, and like what am I trying to say?
I think I know what you're trying to say.
All right.
Okay,
I got it. All right.
They're been run over by a giant joint.
Whether or not people should be allowed to smoke weed, that's its own issue of itself. Or whether or not people should be allowed to speed, that's a separate issue. So we can have an argument of whether or not people should be allowed to speed, and that's going to be completely irrelevant to whether or not people should be allowed to smoke weed. So basically, she's just trying to say that, well, you have your rule I don't like, or you have your rule that you don't like, and I have my rule that I don't like as well.
Well, yes, but your mother is doing something else. It's a false equivalency.
False equivalency.
Yeah.
He's basically trying to deter the subject, like, well, there's something I don't like, so it makes us even, and they're two separate issues. The thing with speeding is it could potentially cause you to get into a car accident, or you could possibly hurt someone, or even yourself from speeding. Now, if we're talking like 5 or 10 miles over the speed limit, that's not a big deal. But if we're talking like 30 miles per hour over the speed limit, that can be a danger to people. Smoking weed can be a danger to other people if, like, you're operating heavy vehicles and you're not used to the effects of weed. But for the most part, people can smoke it in their homes and not affect anyone around them.
Except stoners, but that's okay too, because as the movies have shown us, after they smoke weed, they can't find their car. Where's your car, dude? No, as far as drugs are concerned, you know, my thinking on this is kind of mercenary. This is something people do to themselves, and it's not anybody's business to stop other people from doing stupid things to themselves. So, and not that I'm saying that weed is necessarily a stupid thing. I don't really have an opinion on that. I know that there's been health benefits shown for it, and I've actually seen people benefit from it. So I'm not going to say that it's always a stupid thing. And I'm not necessarily going to say it's always a great thing, too, because I know there's other medicines that do a lot of things that weed gets touted as a cure-all for. So, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't cause the evils that the antis sort of attribute to it, you know, like the stuff they put in the Reefer Madness movie.
Oh,
which,
God,
if you've ever seen it, is just the most hilarious piece of junk that they ever put in schools. Yeah, but
well,
yeah, but as the thing that really bothers me about drug prohibition, there's actually 3 specific things. The first one is we already learned what happens when the government prohibits something that not everybody, in fact the majority of the people, do not consider to be damaging to society. And the majority of the people already have a use for it and are already engaged in using it and invested in using it. That's what happened with alcohol. And we ended up with organized crime surrounding it. And we ended up with no reduction in usage. People started manufacturing their own. Sometimes it was done wrong, and it was poisonous, and they drank it, and they died. There was a great deal more sort of side crime that ended up getting created because of the organized crime around alcohol production and sale and everything. And then there was a lot of crime that ended up happening because of police trying to control it and people trying to conceal their use of it and everything. So all it ended up doing was causing greater conflict between police and the people that they were there to protect, and it caused a permanently existing organized crime syndicate, set of syndicates in the United States. And like, we're never going to get rid of that. That's always going to be around. That started really, or was fueled by alcohol prohibition. So what does our government do? Just a few years later, they start outlawing drugs that people use that are not necessarily deadly, that are not necessarily harmful to the neighborhood or the people around the individual using them. It may be a stupid thing for the individual to do, but it's not the government's business to tell you that you are unable to do stupid things to yourself. And they didn't stop people from They didn't stop people from getting fat. They didn't stop people from smoking cigarettes. They didn't stop people from at the time. They didn't stop people from working themselves to death. They still don't stop people from working themselves to death. But they're going to go after that. And the second thing is, it's costing the lives of the people who protect you against actual crime. Because now they're having to deal with this organized crime that has sprung up around drug prohibition. They're having to deal with disorganized crime that has sprung up around drug prohibition. And then they're also having to deal with secondary crime that has sprung up around drug use that would not happen if that use was not being concealed because it's illegal. And the third thing is, just like with bathtub gin, there's been all these synthetics that were created to get around drug laws. Meth was created because it was illegal to use acid. Bath salts were created because it's illegal to use pot. I believe crocodile was even created to get around heroin laws. So we have this situation where we now have a whole bunch of drugs that are worse than the drugs they originally outlawed, because people are going to use stuff to get high. And if you tell them they can't have the basic stuff, well, they're just going to try to get around it. We'll just use something else. And, maybe it turns you into a face-eating zombie, but you get to get high, so they're going to do it.
Well,
it's caused a whole host of problems.
For a moment. This has actually come up in the news recently about pot, that the DEA was supposed to have an appointment, I guess, to discuss whether or not they should lower marijuana from being a Class 1 drug. And they decided to skip it. They didn't want to come back to this issue. Now, with drug classes, there are about 5 classes, and 5 being not too bad, but 1 being the worst. And marijuana is put on the same level as Oxycontin. And what this means is that it's highly addictive and offers no medical use whatsoever. Now, we know this to be false, but according to the DEA, it doesn't. And the reason why they decided not to even put it down to a level Class 2, which would have been a very big thing for the medical community, is that there's not enough research on marijuana to satisfy the DEA. Well, the reason why there's not enough research is it's actually illegal to possess marijuana on a federal level. If you have it, then you can be criminalized. But how is anyone supposed to do a study on it if they can't actually possess it? And there comes the problem. But there was another report that I saw that there is actually a medicine that you can get from the oil of marijuana. It won't make you high, but it can help people with neurological disorders. And interesting enough, the Health Organization of the United States actually has a patent on this to prevent anyone from actually making something similar to this without being sued.
That is not surprising, actually. I kind of wondered about that. This is another issue that we have with the American government. They're in bed with a lot of industries. The Energizer Bunny has entered. That's really loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear this better than we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it does. It sounds like the Energizer Bunny just crashed the chat. Just crashed the Hangout. But yeah, there's an issue with the government being in bed with a lot of industries. You see that especially with banks, but it's true with the drug industry as well. So I'm really not surprised to hear that there may be medical uses for marijuana that are being blocked by patent. Oh God, what's it called when somebody gets a patent for something? Yeah, patent trolls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just it kind of pisses me off because I've got family members with health problems that they're getting harassed for having their chronic pain treated. Their doctors are constantly having to pass them around to other doctors. They're constantly getting their meds jacked around. One of my family members had her meds jacked around to the point where she actually had narcolepsy from the combination that they put her on. and they didn't even pay attention to the fact that they were putting her on contraindicated drugs. They just wanted to get her off the ones that the DEA was harassing them over. And it was like, this is an individual who went through 6 weeks of testing and trying things out to find what she could take that wouldn't make her stoned, so she could still work even though she had chronic pain. She didn't want to stop working. She didn't want to go on disability. And they're treating that as if she was seeking something that would get her high, like the exact opposite of what she was trying to do. And they've actually criminalized her treatment. And now, I worked at a pharmacy until 2014. I left in October of 2014. And a few months before I left, the Obama administration took a whole bunch of different narcotic painkillers, things that were, some psychiatric drugs, things that were on the market to treat various neurological disorders that were considered narcotics or considered to be mind-altering substances, and they raised all of them up a class. So if you were previously getting prescription, one of them that was really common, I think, was Vicodin. If you were previously getting a prescription periodically for Vicodin because of a recurring pain disorder or something like that, all of a sudden now you had a whole bunch of rules to follow to obtain that medicine that you didn't have to follow before. And the same thing was true with certain psychiatric meds. Xanax was one of them because that one's getting abused a lot. They made it very difficult for people who actually treat with Xanax for real mental illnesses that they actually need the medicine for. They made it more difficult for them to have the medicine. And there was a news story not too long after that happened about a lady who was tailed by the police. She went to the pharmacy, picked up her medicine with a prescription for her medicine that she was taking for a diagnosed mental health condition. She put the bag in her back seat of her car and was driving home with it, and the cops pulled her over and they arrested her for drug possession. And it actually had to go to court. She actually had to go to court and defend her right to have a prescription for the drug that is indicated for the treatment of her mental health condition. It was the stupidest thing. This is what they're doing now. This is where they're headed with this drug prohibition. And I think the gun control issue is going to be the same thing, because it's all, it's all the same attitude. This obsessive degree of authoritarian social micromanagement. Like, they have to have every little aspect of your life under control, and it's bullshit.
I saw an interesting picture, and I don't know if it's true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was, where there's a picture of Ted Kaczynski's gun, which used like springs and car parts to make a gun. And I thought that this was a very telling image, if it's real, that, we can ban guns. People are going to find a way to kill each other. You can't take away people's aggressions just because you take away their means. They'll find a way, either on the black market, either with another weapon, or with I forgot the third point I was going with that, but they'll find another way to kill each other. You're not going to just stop a negative behavior because suddenly they no longer have guns. It doesn't work that way. But yet a lot of people on the left think that
I'm going to take a guess. But I'm going to take a guess that you were going to say theft.
No.
No? Okay.
So, Matt, can you hear me? You guys hear me?
Barely.
Yeah, I can barely hear you. I have no idea what you said.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Alright. Well, I was going to say, so basically, Matt, what you're saying is death finds a way.
So,
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, what just happened? Did my joke just crash the stream?
Possibly.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm still.
I thought my jokes were bad.
But and that's the thing with drugs, and that's the thing that you were saying, Hannah, is that we outlawed these drugs, so people found new drugs. They found new creations.
Yeah.
It's
so that's a prime example of something new people made because they couldn't get the drugs they needed. And I'm not even necessarily so gung-ho about legalizing drugs. I used to have the opinion, it's like, look at how we've abused cigarettes. People smoke that and then sue tobacco companies for giving them cancer. And it's like, you're putting smoke in your lungs. Did you really think that was healthy? If you can't handle one drug, why should we give you another? But
4 out of 5 doctors used to recommend Lucky Strikes on the Abbott and Costello show.
Hey guys, hold on, stop, everybody stop.
Yeah.
All right, as much as fascinating as this conversation is, I need to test something out real quick. All right, how's the volume on this?
Still very loud.
It's louder than all of us combined.
How's
and
it sound
Hannah's
now?
a very loud person.
Well, can you go somewhere in between those 2 settings?
How about that?
There we go. That's about
good?
right. There we go.
Yeah, the way I have this set up, I can't actually hear it.
How long has the Energizer Bunny been staying with you?
And do those paddles really come in handy in the bedroom, if you get my meaning?
Now, can the Energizer Bunny, does the Energizer Bunny have an in with, like, the Playboy bunnies? Because that would be kind of interesting.
That would be nice.
Seriously, why are you married, Hannah? Why can't I marry you? What's wrong with this world?
Hey, maybe nobody should get married. How about that?
Victorian laws? I don't know.
Honestly, I feel like
why are
nobody
you
should get
married,
married.
Hannah?
That kills people! No, wait.
I think marriage does kill
That's
people.
not how this goes. It depends on who you get married to.
Oh, yeah.
I think divorce does. Divorce really sucks.
And the best way
There's
to
nothing
avoid
good about
get a
it.
divorce if you get married first, so thus marriage is the ultimate evil.
Yeah, but unfortunately, if you are with somebody and you don't marry them and they end up in the hospital staff says you're not family and you can't get in to see them.
Well, I thought you were going to go a different direction with this. That unfortunately, if you live with someone long enough, you're considered married.
Well, I think Ohio actually eliminated. They eliminated that.
Oh, I didn't move to Ohio. That's awesome.
Yeah, they used to have common law marriage here, but if I understand correctly, that has been taken off the books. So, and of course, then there's California where you don't have to be married because they have palimony.
What the hell is that?
Palimony, okay, have you ever seen any of the older spaghetti westerns that Clint Eastwood was in? And there was this blonde chick that was in all of them?
Sure.
Okay, and she lived with him. They were in a long-term relationship. And when they broke up, she decided that she deserved some of his income and property because he had been supporting her all that time. And she went to court with the argument that she wasn't, even though she wasn't married to him, she was the same as a wife, and she should get a settlement. And the court sided with her. And that's, if I remember right, there wasn't actually legislation. There was a court ruling, and the court ruling established palimony.
I could believe that, in all honesty. I think I know the actress you're talking about, although her name escapes me, but she was in a couple of his films.
Yep.
Like Magnum Force and, I can't think of anything else, but, well, that doesn't surprise me. I remember, one person whose name I'm not really allowed to mention anymore for some sort of legal reason I don't understand. But she actually, I guess, talked to like a lawyer or whatever about leaving her home. That she wanted to break up with the guy. Oh, I know what it was. She was if she was going to leave him, she didn't have a job and she needed some government help, money. A little distracting. Anyways, what they told her is that what you need to do is get a bill in your name to be sent to his address. so that when you leave him, well, no, that you could actually throw him out of his own house, because now you have mail going there, and you have a child. So if you break up with him, you can force him to leave.
Yeah. Well, now they don't need that. Now she doesn't even need that. She would not have to get a bill or anything. All she has to do is claim that she lives there in some states. Because there was a woman...
I was talking about Canada, but certainly with the U.S., yeah, that's definitely true.
There was a woman who, a guy let her stay with him for a few days. She was actually homeless. And she filed a restraining order against him, kicked him out of his own house, and took over. And he literally couldn't get her out of the house. He had to go through all kinds of rigmarole just to get her out of there. And it was like... That one was on men's rights, and there was another one. See if I remember this right. But these were both cases were situations where the guy was the homeowner. The second one, it's been a while since I've read it, and the woman was his girlfriend and was living with him, and had never contributed at all to paying the bills, and she got him kicked out, and he was required to continue to pay the mortgage and the heat and the air conditioning. It was actually considered attacking her if he didn't pay for all of the bills in the home. It's absolutely insane situation, and it's not rare.
There's actually a movie that portrays that, and it's called Love Stinks, and I forget who the actor's name is. French Stewart. He was in it. And in the movie, he starts dating this woman, but he doesn't really want anything serious, but she keeps escalating the relationship. Like, she's the first to say, I love you, and then got mad at him for not saying it back, so just to appease her, he said it back, and then they moved in with each other. But she got so furious that he never asked her to get married. She actually took him to court, saying that he had an obligation to marry her because, you know, they were in a relationship together, they moved in with each other, they share a lot of the same things, and she had nowhere else to go. But eventually, she made it to the point that he couldn't live in his own home anymore. Now, in order to solve this, he had to trick her, like, pretend that he actually did want to get married. He faked that he was actually selling the house to someone else just to get her to leave, and then stood her up at the altar just to get rid of her. And the film still kind of paints him as kind of a jerk for doing this, but what else could he do? He couldn't live his own home anymore. It was also forced to live with a cat, which he was severely allergic to, and she required him to get allergy shots just to live with the cat.
Yeah, this is, people probably thought of the movie as a joke, using an extreme that would never happen, like the way Monty Python does with the Undertaker sketch where the guy is like, yeah, we can bury her, burn her, or dump her, or we could eat her, Well, in real life, the stuff that we're talking about is actually not only is it happening, it's not uncommon at all. And there's, like, in addition to the Violence Against Women Act, which does allow some of this, there are different states in the United States with laws on the books that allow for seizing property just on the basis of a restraining order, or demanding maintenance payments just on the basis of a restraining order. Like, a woman who's in a relationship with a guy can get a restraining order against him, and then if she has living expenses that are created by she can say they're created by being away from him, like if she moves out of his house and he had been paying the bills, he basically gets ordered to pay support so that she doesn't have to go back to him. It's like, it's insane. She wants to walk away but take his wallet with her, and the state facilitates it.
There's a basketball player who recently came in the news. Actually, it was his ex-wife that came in the news, who basically divorced her husband and got like a settlement of $5 million. And of course, he got custody of the kid. That was like a very rare thing where a famous athlete actually got custody of his kids, but he was still ordered to pay her $5 million, and now she's trying to sue him because she's gone through all the money and she can't really pay her way of life anymore. So she's trying to get the courts to order him to give her more money.
No, that's a common thing too. I can't think of the actor's name. He's the brother that moves in with the Charlie Sheen character in 2.5 Men. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, he was dating Bruce Willis's ex-wife.
Yeah, and he has an ex-wife who he's having to pay her, I think it's like $10,000 a month maintenance, so that their child, when he goes and stays with her like 4 days a month, doesn't have to stay in an apartment, and he stays in a house instead. So apparently, yeah, it's who?
Ashton Kutcher.
No, the actor who is original to the show.
Oh, you're talking about John Cryer.
Yeah, that's his name, John Cryer, and he's got to pay this ridiculous degree of child support, and the idea isn't that the mother needs that much child support. Like, he's got custody. The mother only sees the kid, like I said, on every other weekend, so it's like 4 days a month, sometimes 6 days a month, and it's abuse for this child to spend 4 to 6 days a month living in an apartment. Now, granted, my kid grew up in an apartment, and part of the reason that we never had a house was because the state decided that it was more important that my husband's ex-wife not have to get a job than it was for my son to have his mom, at home at least for part of the day when he was awake every day. And
but Hannah, the patriarchy.
Yeah. I'm the wrong mom. I'm the second wife, so my time with my kid is not as important. And my son, being the child from the second marriage, he doesn't count as a child. So it's okay for him to grow up in an apartment. In fact, it would have been okay for him to be forced to grow up in a rougher neighborhood than his parents would have chosen, because everything was geared towards the ex-wife. And
I understand why the system went in place in the first place. Not that I necessarily agree with it, but it was during a time when women weren't really expected to work, at least upper class women. They weren't expected to work. They were expected to get married and raise a family. But then they want a divorce. They don't necessarily have any sort of skill set to go into the workforce to do anything. So they need assistance.
Yeah, not anything legal.
It was meant to be a rehabilitation that once they acquired the skills they needed to live on their own, they could go and support themselves and no longer needed alimony or child support.
Child support. Child support was a different story. Child support didn't originate in the 50s or something like that. It originated well before that.
No, I understand that, but at least with alimony, and this is part of what we're talking about, is alimony, which kind of clashes with child support. Kind of all became the same thing eventually. But with alimony, I can understand that. The problem is that who wants to work if you're getting free money? Who wants to do anything with their life? That's kind of the problem with welfare.
Yeah.
Who wants to work if I'm getting free money for having 20 kids?
But
let me pop out some more and I can get some more kids, more money.
But
and it's just the mentality we have in this country of, if I'm going to get something for free, I'm not going to do anything to help anyone but myself, even at the detriment to the people around me.
Now, I got to say a word about how child support happened, because this is something a lot of people don't realize. Prior to activism by Carolyn Norton in the mid-19th century, it was more traditional in a divorce for the father to have custody of the kids. He was the one that was responsible for supporting the family. He was the one who had the income. He kept the house if a divorce occurred. He was pretty much covered. Now, he would have to take care of his wife even after the divorce was over. Alimony was a thing because it was legal to pay women less. It was acknowledged that in a lot of jobs women were not expected to perform equally heavy labor, and they were not expected to perform, the same rate of manufacturing production or the same rate of a lot of stuff that men were. So it was legal to pay women less. It was legal to pay children less, and it was legal to employ children, for hours, like labor hours, 12-hour days, and in dangerous positions and all that, So this is why, there was child support. Not child support. This is why there was alimony. Child support preceded all of this. And this was during the poor laws came about during the 13th through, I think, the 18th centuries. This is what I was looking at previously when I started researching the history of child support. And what child support was for situations where women had children outside of wedlock. The state couldn't force the father to marry her, but they could nail him with a fee, so that when she went to the state for her, assistance, and this is after the dissolution of the monasteries by, I think it was King Henry. Trying to remember which king it was now. I think it was King Henry, the one that had 8 wives. That he wanted a divorce, they wouldn't give him a divorce, and so he went after the church.
Isn't that King Henry the Eighth?
I believe so, yeah. And
immaterial, but
I believe so, yes. But in any case, prior to the dissolution of the monasteries, the church was the welfare sort of administration. There was no welfare administration from the monarchy. As far as like if somebody needed a place to live, or if somebody needed money because they couldn't work and things like that, the church really was the one that took care of that. And if there were poorhouses and there were I guess they call it alms for the poor to be given and stuff, it was the churches that handled that as well. And when the church stopped handling that, and it became the responsibility of the state, which the state had confiscated a great deal of the church's wealth in going after the monasteries, the state took measures through law to ensure that they were not supporting deadbeats. And there were a bunch of other things that happened in conjunction with this. There was the Black Plague happened, and because like 2/3 of the population died, 2/3 of the skilled laborers died, people started price gouging for their work, so there were laws related to that as well, and they like limited people's movement and everything. And in among all of that, the state came out with a set of laws that, like, if you were relying on the state as your source of sustenance, your income, your food, your shelter, something like that, even if you were living in a workhouse and doing work, they could go after your nearest relatives. But there were some that were very specific to unwed mothers. They could be compelled to name a father. The father would be assessed a debt, and the state would go after the debt. And that existed all the way up through Carolyn Norton's thing, and it was the guideline for creating a child support system when it became more common for women to divorce their husbands, because then they could get custody of the children, they could get the property, and they weren't necessarily put into financial dire straits because they got a divorce. And that was kind of the birth of the statistic of most divorces being sought by women as opposed to most divorces being sought by men. So,
well, I believe our host wants to take the show back over.
Yes. You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I hear you all right.
Cool. Like this program that you're looking at, if you look at your screens, it's it's called Cubase LE4. It's a recording program. So like, they also use MIDI, which is what you guys were hearing. Let's see, when you guys were talking about the Energizer Buddy, that was the drum beat that you were hearing.
Now, do you do that with a keyboard?
No, I just put it in manually with the mouse. Let's see.
Well, that's interesting.
So in other words, this is a synthesizer.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, I just
They still call them that?
well, there are still synthesizers out there, but
Well,
Okay.
technically it's a digital synthesizer. Most synthesizers were like keyboards.
Yeah.
Windows.
yeah, I've actually like used one of those back when I went to junior college. I took the electronic music class, and like they showed us how to change the frequency and whatnot on the synthesizer to get different sounds.
Cool.
I kind of wish they made like a digital version for like specific. I'm pretty sure they do have one of those, but I would like to get one of those for like a software. So like when I make MIDI, I can like change what sound it's gonna be making per note. But anyway, as you can see, I don't have a keyboard, which would be cool if I actually did. But I don't have a. Actually, they're called MIDI controllers. But anyway, I don't have one of those, so I just use the mouse. I just click on this little thing. Just click on this thing, the drumstick, and I just, put wherever I feel like doing it. This is the drums, that's why it's only making drum sounds.
By the way, your music is drowning you out, just for you to be aware. So if you want to talk while the music's going, either you need to lower the volume of the music or increase your own volume.
Actually, it'd be better to increase the volume of your voice because it's not as loud, I think, as either of ours.
Alright, how you hear now?
That's better.
That's much
definitely
better.
Yeah, I don't know, the problem I worry about is like my fan, because it's like, I don't think it's at full blast,
right there.
but it's like close there.
I don't think I'm too bothered by the fan. I don't think anyone will be.
Well, my problem is that I'm gonna be like recording myself singing as well, so I don't want the fan in there. But I don't know, let's see what happens in the final mix. If all else fails, I can always like re-record it some other time when my fan's not going nuts. But anyway,
You just advertised that the song was recorded with a screaming fan.
Why can't the fan be a musical instrument?
There we go.
hey, if you like that sound, like if you like listening to music that's like recorded in somebody's bedroom or garage or whatever, then this would be perfect because it has all the markings of the unprofessionalism and the lack of finances involved in making of an album. Then yeah, you can have a fan going on and like in the background. You can also have
like Weird Al Yankovic when he was first starting out.
He did another one, Ride the Bus.
Well, that's not the first song that I'm talking about, though.
Okay.
He did something else, but he got it on Doctor Strange. I forget his name.
Oh, Dr. Demento, but that was
Dr.
another one, Ride the
Demento,
Bus.
yeah. But, well, let me get to the point of my story. So, while he was working at a radio station, he needed to record his song to send to Dr. Demento, so he went into the bathroom to record his song. And when Dr. Demento first heard it, it's like, why does it sound like he's in a bathroom?
Because he was. But yeah, that was another one, Rides the Bus. That was his first. That was his first publicly played, by the Dr. Demento show, and I remember that. That was pretty awesome, though.
what's the name of that British punk band? They're pretty legendary. Like one of the band members is named like Johnny Rotten, and like another band member is named Sid Vicious. What's the name of that band?
If you hadn't asked
Sex
me, I would have been able to tell you.
Oh, Sex Pistols.
Mis-
No,
That's
something
the
Misfits.
one I know with Sid Vicious. So.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Sex Pistols. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
And I know that. Let me just put that out there.
Anyway, I took a recording arts class, and like the teacher told me about how, or he didn't tell me personally, he told the class about how like the Sex Pistols, they went into like record I think it's like their first album, and they went to like professional studio. And like they kept like beating up the mics, trying to make them like sound worse, because that's the kind of sound they were going for. And like the recording engineer got tired of their tomfoolery and just like kicked them out.
Well, Louie Louie was recorded in a studio, but it wasn't great. And the guy doing the recording, I guess the mic was like 6 feet over his head or something like that. So he had to tip his head back to sing, and he was yelling up to the mic. And if I remember right, the story is he had been drinking too. And so that's the reason why you can't understand any of the words to the song, except for the chorus is moderately understandable. There used to be, because of the way that song was recorded, there used to be all these rumors about, the real lyrics to Louie Louie were not what was printed on the album, but were these horribly obscene, lyrics to this song. And it was supposed to be a song about of a guy's complaints to a bartender about his girlfriend, and so that made it even more believable. But the recording process had just been so bad. And then what was it? Barbara Ann was recorded at a party. So there's all kinds of stuff like that happens.
I do want to correct you, Hannah. You said that it was Another That Rides the Bus that I was referring to. I'm looking it up right now. The song was My Bologna.
The first thing that was played on the Dr. Demento show was Another One Rides the Bus.
Actually, that's not true. That's not true either. It was Belvedere Cruisin' was the first one that Dr. Demento played of Weird Al's. Now, Another One Rides the Bus was the song that he recorded live in Dr. Demento's studio.
Yeah, whenever I looked at
Another One Rides the Bus was not the first one that Dr. Demento played of Weird Al.
Whenever I looked that song up, Another One Rides the Bus on YouTube, like the live recording in the studio is like the only video I can find. I can't find like the song itself. Like a lot of people like upload like the song itself from like the studio, the studio album that was released onto the YouTube, and I couldn't find any of that. I can only find the that studio recording.
It may be that's really the only one as the first one. Anyone after that, you're going to just get a concert version.
Alright. Yeah, so anyway, if you look at your screens, you'll notice that, I'm really terrible at this. But anyway, what I'm working on is a theme song for a video project I'm working on. I'm going to be using a Source Filmmaker to make it. I'm using mostly the Half-Life 2 properties, the models that they have, to make it. And the show is going to be called Fascist.
Fascist?
Yes, Fascist.
Fascist Police?
Yeah, well, it's going to be like a buddy cop comedy show about these two police officers protecting the good people of the land from freedom and wrongthink.
Okay, you got me.
Cool.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Apparently, there's going to be a Russian film version of the Avengers. And I'm like, what does that look like? I mean, I saw the preview of it, but it was like, wouldn't they try to get the people to not like freedom or whatever if it's from Russia?
I don't know.
It depends on which Russia they're trying to portray, the old Russia or the Russia of modern liberal imagining.
I'm sure the biggest thing that Russian Avengers have to deal with is people being gay. That person's gay. Let's go beat them up.
No. They also have to watch out for brainwaves, incoming brainwaves from Crazy Gale.
Oh God! Unfortunately, I actually I downloaded her audiobook.
Oh my God! Why?
Mad Cat. Have you heard of a woman named Gail Kortschuler?
No.
She is crazy. Like they used to show her videos like all the time on the Drunken Peasants, but apparently she hasn't come out with anything Drunken Peasants worthy recently. But basically, she's this crazy lady. I have no idea how much of it is actually an act and how much of it is actually true insanity. But I'm not quite sure it's 100% one way or the other. But anyway, like she, where to begin with Gail Kortschuler? There's a spaceship. I forgot what the spaceship is called. I think it's called like the Ship of Gale or whatever. And like
I do not remember.
Yeah, like there's a spaceship that she can't actually get onto, but like there's this huge spaceship that she owns, and like she tells people about she can get messages from the spaceship, but she can't actually go there, and she relays those messages to us, the good people of Earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, but the husband's thing is the funniest.
Yeah, I'll get to it. Just let me get to it. Okay, like she's constantly at war with the Jesuits, like the Jesuit priests, and like the Jesuit priests. A lot of them are just like the vast majority of them are like gay rapists.
Yeah, if I remember right, she like had all kinds of fun things to say about the Jesuit priests.
Yeah, and what was it? I forgot who he raped, but there's this one character named Bubba the Fat Black Jesuit, and all right, I can't tell you about him until I tell you about the husbands. All right, Gail Schuler has like is this the right word? A throng of a thrall, that's a good way to put it. She has like a thrall of husbands. And like they're all like famous people. A number of people on her list of husbands are Vladimir Putin, Matthew McConaughey, who's the name of that guy in The Matrix? Keanu Reeves. Yeah, Keanu Reeves and Kim Jong-il. Or Kim Jong-un. One of the Kims.
One of the Kims.
Yes.
I'm sure she just jumps from Kim to Kim depending on who's in charge.
Oh, also it's Data from Star Trek.
Yeah.
The actor.
Spiner.
Yeah, Brent Spiner. Like she talks at length about how like the Brent Spiner you see walking and talking is actually like a Jesuit clone, and like the man that she's married to is the real Brent Spiner.
That she has locked up in the basement?
No, he's allowed to roam free. It's just that the one taking all the credit is the Jesuit clone. Oh my god. Yeah. So anyway, like Bubba the Fat Black Jesuit, like I don't even know if I want to get into it because I'm really not a fan of Pico Manor. But anyway, like. I was just gonna arrest her, right? He takes a dump in one of Gail Schuler's husband's mouths. I forgot which famous person it was.
Oh God.
Yes,
it's gross.
Oh yeah, one of the things she Bubba. One of the things she says is "lick my butthole." Oh my god, you gotta look her up. Not now because I'm in the middle of the stream, but after the stream's over, look her up.
Yeah, there's a pretty in-depth article on her on Encyclopedia Dramatica because once they discovered her YouTube channel, 4chan became rather fascinated with this woman. Yes.
And also, she's like very religious. She personally talks to Jesus Christ via Skype.
I wonder if there's a real account that somebody told her he really is Jesus.
It's very positive. Like, it's very possible. That's what I mean. Like the drunken peasants have been wondering, like, how involved other people on the internet are in like crafting this like fantasy of hers.
Well, considering she's gotten the attention of several sites that where trolling is the main order of the day, I can imagine that there are probably a lot of people involved.
Yeah, but there's really nothing to say how much of that is actually true. Like, she can just be like not talking to anyone,
She could just be nuts.
Yeah. Or she could be in on it. This could be like a character she just made up.
Well, it's certainly possible.
If that's the case, bravo, it's worked. Oh, by the way, when I downloaded her audiobook, I didn't pay for it. It was like the free trial. So as far as I know, no money went to Gail Schuler for that book. That horrible, horrible book.
I wonder if that is it going to disappear off your hard drive after a while, or did she call something a free trial and then just hope that people would pay for it?
No, it's available on what is it? Audible.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Audible will give you like one free download as kind of a trial. That's like, hey, look at how great this product is. You should buy more of our stuff.
And you downloaded that. Oh,
Yes.
they should kind of limit things a little bit.
Like I knew what I was getting into. I didn't like download it on like accident or anything, thinking it was actually good. Also, I thought it was gonna be like so bad it's good, but it was just bad.
Well, you know what would have been worth more your time is Green Eggs and Ham.
There you go. But it's like going on iTunes and downloading the original version of Friday.
Oh god.
Yeah, I went to show that to my mother because there was something that I showed her that was, you know, parodying, making fun of it, and the original version is gone. It's scrubbed from the internet. It's all been replaced by an updated, very edited, altered version that's actually, it doesn't sound that bad. I mean, the lyrics are still stupid, but the lyrics to most pop music is stupid. You know, I mean, there's been pop music that has sold thousands of albums with lyrics like 2 different lines repeated over and over again, and that's the entire song, you know.
The original's always better.
The original song was funny. My favorite version of it, though, is the bad lip reading version.
I don't think I've ever heard the song all the way through. I think I just like heard people talking about it and like just heard little clips of it that they showed. But I never actually like sat there and like listened to the entire song.
Well, have you ever seen the bad lip reading version?
No, I haven't.
I love that channel because they like pick on politicians and stuff too. But the bad lip reading version of that, they changed Friday to gang fight. So the line is, instead of it was like Friday, gotta get down on Friday or something like that, and it became gang fight, the gang is down to fight. And the next line, it looks like she's saying, "Have I brought this chicken for us to no eat?" And that's what they put in the song.
What?
It's hilarious.
Alright, now I set it up so I can actually hear what's actually coming out of the computer, what you guys are actually hearing from the program.
Cool.
So, tell me how this sounds. Is it too loud or what?
No, not too loud.
That's fine.
Alright. Let's see. Do we still have viewers, or did they get bored already?
Yeah, they bailed.
Oh,
They
really?
bailed.
Oh, so it's just us?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the last discussion seems to have been regarding the dildo thing. And then once we stopped talking about that, we lost comments. And then shortly after we started talking about Weird Al, the numbers under the video on my screen, that kind of dropped. They disappeared.
Alright, well,
Scared him away with Weird Al.
Now we know what. Now we know what draws our audience.
Stay around for the drugs.
There we go. Hey, well, it's not a party if you don't stay around for the drugs.
Hey, let's bring back the phallic objects. Like, back to Gail Court-Schuler. She seems to be like obsessed with penises.
Yeah.
Not just any kind of penises, like extremely, inhumanly long penises.
Well, it's kind of like that kid from Superbad who has to draw penises everywhere.
Yeah, it actually is very similar to that. Like, I think Gail said that Brent Spiner's penis is like 18 3/4 long.
That's a horse dick. I'm sorry, but nobody's got one that big.
You know, the thing is about dicks is that most women don't even really like really big dicks. They like to think they do, but, you know,
But then they
a
see
woman
one and
is
they get
very
scared.
satisfied by, you know, an average-sized dick.
Well, that's because the G spot is actually closer to the front in most women, closer to the exit of the vagina in most women. It's not like way in deep. What's way in deep is the cervix, and if you hit the cervix good and hard, even with something that is, just fleshy instead of something solid, it hurts. It may not be as bad as, say, getting kicked in the balls, but it still hurt. It feels like somebody took a hold of something inside your guts and is trying to rip it out.
And suddenly I'm just thinking of this video I saw by Sour Grape where she's singing everyone was kung fu fighting while an anime girl is punching tits. If you haven't seen it, it is like the greatest video ever because she's doing it in a very high-pitched voice.
The cartoon voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. As bad as I am at singing... I can do the cartoon voice, but I can't sing in it.
Yeah, it's actually NC Clark, but she is so great with voices. She just cracks me up. I just did a recording with her for my play, because she's actually going to be the main female character. And as much of
you're the one.
Much of a professional as she is, it's like between takes, she's just cracking me up. I'm probably going to put the whole recording up on YouTube when I produce it. But, I mean, it was just so funny.
Yeah, I asked her to work on my video project, but she said that she already had like 2 other projects that she's working on as well. So I guess you're one of those projects.
Maybe, I don't know. She's always busy.
Yeah.
I just got to get my computer straight. What I might have to do is make another Google account, so I got a YouTube channel that nobody's watching, and then I can do the recording for yours. Because, I don't have a working system right now for that.
You talking about me, or talking about...
No.
Talking about me.
Yeah, talking about
What do I call you, by the way?
I'm still trying to figure it out, honestly.
Because, if we had a
dinner
show, I could have asked you this before we got online. What do I call you?
I'm still trying to figure it out myself, because, my YouTube channel is called, Mad Man Ministries, and, that's basically for, any kind of musical project I'm working on. I just put music up on there.
You don't have a stage name yet?
Well, I do. It's Jin Chechnya, but, I don't know. I'm not quite sure if I want to use that.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pronounce that.
We could call you Mr. Unpronounceable.
No, just call me Jin Chechnya for now. I'll figure out something later.
Yeah. Just don't get in an electrotherapy tub.
I'll call you Jen Chechnya.
There we go.
Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, Jin Chechnya. Like the country, or not the country, the region.
Oh, they're all countries. Like Serbia, Detroit. They're all countries.
Detroit is almost like its own little country if you go in there. At least it's not like it was in the 90s. Periodically on fire.
It's like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. You just have a village that just bursts into flames every so often.
Well, I mean, there were people setting the fires. That was part of what they did on Halloween night, Devil's Night. Just go around and set empty buildings on fire, and maybe not necessarily empty buildings also.
Yeah. Yeah, Detroit used to be a lot worse, and it's weird for me to say that because it's still pretty bad.
Well, it's definitely not as bad as it used to be. It's enough that it was actually not. It wasn't really like. My parents didn't like that that's where the first International Men's Rights Conference was going to be, and I was going to go there, and I was going to be staying there overnight, you know what I mean? And I'm like,
yeah.
It's not, the whole city is not a big hellhole, But
why Detroit of all places? I mean, other than
actually,
the car manufacturing business that, was no longer there in Detroit.
That was partly to benefit Detroit. It was to... We're going to spend money to have this conference. This is and this is a place that kind of is, in its own way, indicative of men's issues. Because a lot of it was manufacturing, a lot of it was men's work, and it was all sort of destroyed by, mismanagement, really, by government mismanagement, and in union mismanagement. You really can't hold the unions blameless when it comes to how the automotive manufacturing crash happened, because they made these demands for unsustainable settlements with contracts with people, and then people ended up living longer than they expected after they retired, and they just sort of killed the goose that laid the golden egg for their clients. But yeah, it was kind of a symbolic thing, and then of course, there were people involved with A Voice for Men who are from that area and everything. So it was a kind of a natural choice for A Voice for Men to do it there.
Well, speaking of hellholes, have you heard about Trudeau, who says poverty is sexist?
Yeah, I heard about that. There was somebody quoting him, and I asked them if they were going to address the majority of unsheltered homeless being male. And since they're saying poverty is sexist, are they going to talk about the sexist nature of providing shelters only for one sex, or making only one sex have a difficult time finding shelters? And of course, I never got an answer.
The way the article read that I saw was basically Trudeau is basically saying that women just women are highly disproportionate. They're highly affected by homelessness, and that they were going to give more money to the UN for a homeless fund to help women.
Now, see, women are a tiny minority among unsheltered homeless. Most homeless that are actually on the street are men. Because when a woman looks for shelter, and most homeless women, if they're not in a homeless shelter, they're couch surfing. They've got friends or family members that'll let them stay at this place or that place for a couple of days, and it's not even just like, this woman or that woman's been homeless for a short time and she's just hopping from couch to couch, friends and family. I'm talking the degree of homelessness where you don't bathe for months at a time. And I gave a homeless woman a ride home from my workplace once because she conned me, essentially. She came in and took really long with a transaction, then claimed it was my fault she had missed the bus and she needed a ride home. And I think she was hoping that I would give her a place to stay for the night. Ended up driving her around 3 different people's homes she was accustomed to crashing at. So she had 3 different people that were regularly sheltering her, and 2 of them lived in apartment buildings. So you can't have somebody live with you if you're on a lease, and you don't have that other person on a lease. A lot of apartment complexes will kick you out for that. But if that person only comes around and stays for 3 or 4 days at a time, and then they're gone for a couple of weeks, it doesn't count as living with you. And it's that's where they might say that homelessness affects women more, but the truth is, when you look at the homeless population, there is a stark division between that and people who are sleeping on street corners and in the alley or in abandoned buildings. And that's mostly men.
Well, there's actually a whole community dedicated to couchsurfing. When I was potentially going to be homeless, I actually started looking into that. And as long as you have an internet access, you can ask people, hey, I'm going to be in your area. You mind if I crash on your couch?
Yeah.
And it's actually good. And they don't discriminate against men necessarily, but it's up to the individual person if they want to accept it or not. Usually having references from other people can kind of help out. If you go to kind of a group thing where people spend the night in a group as a whole, that can kind of help you out. So being homeless is not as bad as it once was, but it's still pretty bad.
Yeah.
So you guys need that?
Yep. Never before has a discussion about homelessness sounded so badass.
Thing repeating over and over again.
Well, it's a theme song. It doesn't need to be super complicated.
Why, is it a female song?
What?
You said it was going to be super complicated.
No, I said it doesn't have to be super
okay. Okay.
So obviously it's a song for men.
That's not over-complicated, it's just humanly complicated.
No, that's very simplistic right there.
Yeah.
Okay, you play
I'm wondering
instruments?
why you playing it over and over again.
I'm listening to it to see if it sounds good. If it's what I'm looking for.
Unfortunately, I'm no judge of these things. I can certainly give you my viewpoint, but I don't really know music, so...
This could be the background music to a scary movie, or a video game, or a redneck adventure story.
A punk band, playing this on stage, in all honesty.
Yeah. You start playing that background music, and then the storyteller starts. Billy Bob was your regular, ordinary country boy until he met Susan.
Now remind me of that.
Even though Susan was his cousin on his mother's side, he'd never seen such a pretty woman before.
Twice removed because her daddy kept kicking her out.
I never understood what twice removed means.
I never looked it up. I never paid attention to that.
What it means is, okay, so say you have a sibling, that's your sibling. Your mother, your grandmother, your grandmother. Now, if your grandmother also had another child, so that would have been the sibling to your mother, and had a child that's your cousin, okay? Now, if your great-grandmother had another child with, so basically sibling to your grandmother, and then had
That's
children,
your great aunt.
would be your great, well, yeah, it would be your great aunt. If she had a child, that would be, if I remember correctly, your first cousin once removed.
See, my family always referred to that as your second cousin.
That's another term for it.
I never heard the term removed within my family. That was never something that was said. But
it actually gets quite complicated. Like, you could have a second cousin twice removed.
yeah, it depends on what the family values are regarding how far out somebody has to get, before it stops being considered incest if you marry them.
Well, actually, for
how far removed?
Throughout history, cousins were able to get married.
Yeah, that's true.
It's only within like the last 100 years or so has it been like cousins weren't allowed to get married. You had to be at least second cousin.
Well, it was referred to in Gone with the Wind, because my mother made me watch that movie, for which I've long since forgiven her, mostly. But I remember that being said that one family in that story, they marry their cousins, and it was like a tradition with them.
Well, technically, there's still enough genetic diversity there that having a child would still be very possible without any sort of issue. But
it increases the danger, is what happens. It increases the danger.
Yeah, but
like if you both have a respective.
See, this is the thing with math and using statistics is you can transform it any way you want. I mean, there is double the chance that siblings having a child together could result in mental retardation. versus people who are not related. But we're still talking about a 1% chance for people who are not related. So what's double that? 2%?
Yeah.
3%? So it's still not that great. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that it's just funny how people get so obsessed with math without actually understanding its context.
Yeah, it sounds so much more intimidating to say, double the chance than it does to say, well, it goes from 1% to 2%. It's like, okay, but I still, I would still be loath to take such a chance. I mean, I had always planned when I was a kid to, when I was younger anyway, I should say, I knew that I was going to stop having kids at a certain age because of the increased risk that I would inflict a handicap on one of my children, and that was just a choice,
Well, don't worry, all women are crazy. That's not just you.
Well, but if you have a kid over the age of, when you're older than 35, if that's when you have your first child, there's a much greater chance of things like, disabilities, just basically any kind of genetic disability. There's a much greater chance that happens.
I was saying craziness was your disability.
Well, that's a distinct possibility, but I don't think that's necessarily hereditary. I blame the steroid. Is it gonna be difficult for you?
Well, it's been difficult so far, but I've just kind of put up with it. But the more I do it, the harder it becomes.
The harder it is.
Because it's like I don't even really listen to music anymore because of my disability, which really sucks because I love music. But
it makes it hard to focus.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And no
I
offense
can understand.
to Chechnya, but had I known this was going to happen, I probably would have warned you. Like I would have difficulty with it. So I don't want to take it away from you. I'm just letting you know that it's an issue.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, it sounds pretty good so far. I really like the. I don't know. I'm kind of describing it as a grunge element. I don't know if that's the right term, but I kind of feel like there's a little bit of grunge in there with the bass.
I don't know if it's like grungy. Like it's slap bass.
Can barely hear you.
Oh. Yeah, it's slap bass, but slap bass is usually associated with like funk. So
yeah.
Quite sure.
Well, I can see that, but it's kind of like the tone you have. The tune, not tone.
Oh, the tone. Oh, alright. Maybe they're just old strings. That might be the case. They're just really old strings.
I don't know, but it does sound good.
Thank you.
Especially when you got the piano out of there. For some reason, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, it wasn't working for me either. That's why I took it out.
I have a special liking for piano music, but I don't think it would have fit with this.
Yeah, I have a special thing for piano music as well. My greatest regret that I never got a chance to learn piano.
Well, I took piano lessons, but I wasn't really geared towards taking lessons. I played by ear. It's very, very difficult on the earlobes. But no, I used to be able to sound just about anything out on the piano, including things that were not music. But I haven't had access to a piano in close to 20 years, so I don't know if I could still do it. I used to play just about everything I could hear on the radio, you know. Just sit down and sound it out.
Yeah, it sounds like most people who play guitars is that they don't actually learn to read music. They just hear a tune and try to emulate it. Which is nothing wrong with that, but, you know, I always think it was interesting.
It's not necessarily written the same way as other music either. I mean, you can use the regular style, but there's a way of writing guitar music that you're just writing the chords, you're putting them in a graph instead of... Because my brother plays guitar, the sixth string, he plays the bass, he plays the banjo, and he plays the violin. And then he also plays harmonica and drums, knows a little saxophone, and he sings.
I'll tell you the craziest instrument I've ever seen, and I would one day love to play this if it wasn't for being very fragile, but the glass harmonica. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, those are cool. Whoa, that's loud.
That was a lot of static. You know,
Sorry about that.
You know who invented the glass harmonica?
No.
Who?
Benjamin Franklin.
That is interesting.
And it's funny too, because when he first gave a performance, people said that the music would actually cause you to go insane.
Go insane?
Yeah.
Oh, for crying out loud. Of course, that was back during a time period where people might find it believable if somebody said they were possessed by... Of course, people are finding that believable now.
Well, yeah, but we haven't really changed. We might have changed some of our language, but we're trying to have the same reaction that if something is new, it has to be wrong, or it has, well, now that it has to get misogyny.
I noticed on Drudge Report's actually been putting headlines up about it. There's all kinds of news stories about an upsurge of exorcisms and people claiming friends or family members are possessed by demons. And I'm wondering if there's... Is that the background to...
What?
Is that the background to the same thing you were playing? Because it sounded almost like the beginning of, shoot, I can't think of the name of the song.
Well, it was a E
500 miles.
What? 500 miles?
I would walk 500 miles, and I would walk 500 more.
I think that's the 10,000 Screaming Maniacs.
Yeah.
It's well, it's an E power chord, so it's the beginning of every song.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting to a point that I can't really stay on the station tonight if the music continues to play, and I don't mean to be an asshole about that, but that's just what my condition is. So.
And it's called knowing your limits. That doesn't make you an asshole.
Well, what exactly does the music do? Because I've never heard of this before. What does the music do to you?
Okay, it's not necessarily the music specifically. It's stimulation. And the more stimulation I have, the more my brain is overworked. Now, also, if I continuously do something like doing a show, it also fatigues my mind. So when a new thing is introduced, it can actually cause my brain to want to shut down. So it's not music specifically, but if I want to listen to music, I can't do anything else.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's just part of my condition because I had a concussion nearly 4 years ago.
Huh.
So your music's not really affecting me, it's just a new thing. Like if someone brought in a fresh batch of cookies from the oven and set them right in front of me, I would smell that and it could start affecting me.
Alright. So if I started showing you like hardcore porn, that would start affecting you.
Would affect everybody.
Well, not in the way you would think it would. I've
Cause
seen
extreme
hardcore
swelling.
porn before, and actually most of it's disappointing. In all honesty.
No, I mean I can I can save the music for later when you decided to check out and it's just me and Hannah or whoever's left.
I was gonna say I might end up crashing before he does, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is pretty late, but I like chatting with Hannah, and I like chatting with Mr. Chechnya here.
Oh, make sure you guys subscribe to my. Well, I mean, if you like the material, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
actually,
I'm
is
already
this a new?
subscribed.
This is not a new
awesome.
channel, is it?
Yes,
I thought
it
I
is.
was I thought I was already subscribed too, but then when I went to like the video, it said I was not subscribed, but I am
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
So how many channels do you have?
I only have 2 channels.
Okay, then.
Actually,
then
no, I have 3 channels, but I'm either gonna abandon my other channel or turn it into something else.
I think I'm subscribed to all 3 of your channels now. I think
Ah, cool.
with both of my. See, I've got 2 YouTube. I got 2 Google accounts that have YouTube connected to them. One of them is this one, and the other one is the one that has my actual YouTube channel on it. It's funny because I actually got a lot of subscribers to this one, and I don't have anything on it. I don't do anything with it except get on Hangouts, and the only thing I use it for is that this is the image that I'm using when I'm in the Hangout. And then my other channel has all my video, but I got a bunch of subscribers anyway.
Yeah, I have a second Google account, and it was because I had like one YouTube account, and then I also had a Google Plus account. But Google was trying to merge the 2 together and kept saying, "Do you want to use your actual name for this channel?" I'm like, "No, it's Mad Cat. I want my actual name on here." And I kept fighting and finally I guess Google gave up, and it's like, how about we create a second account for you, one with a YouTube with your name on it and one without. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do that. So, and I've used the other channel, only has 8 subscribers though.
Yeah. Well, I've got a whole bunch of different email addresses that I use for different things. Like I've got one that if I want to sign up for something online and I know they're going to send me junk mail, then I have one that it's don't bother stupid and a number.
Actually, I use a system that helps me with that. It's called Blur. And what it'll do is whenever I sign up for something that I don't want my actual email address, it will auto-generate an email address that will send to me, and then if I don't like what I see, I can just delete the email address.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I have one that I created specifically, so I could probably use that one for what I'm thinking of doing, how I'm going to record the sound for that play. But I wrote to the Calgary Expo staff to get some information that I wanted to see if they were honest about their new policy. So I wrote to them as a feminist book club owner, and they're not being honest about their new policy. What I got back basically was asking for more information about the book club and whether or not they could, we could show them a website and stuff like that. Meaning, they wanted to know how big we were and maybe what kinds of stuff we were going to be bringing in there, whether we were, rad femmes or whether it was just a female-focused feminist book club. But it's still political. I had started out saying we were political, and so they're claiming that they've banned political things is false. Because they didn't outright say, well, if your focus is feminism and not, nerd culture, then we don't want you. They didn't say that.
Yeah, I actually created an email address specifically for reaching out to feminist researchers to try to get more information from them about their studies. It's not like I'm trying to do anything really deceptive there, but I'm like, if they knew who I actually was, they might be biased in their response to me.
Well,
and
it's
I
really
want their actual research information. Like there was apparently a men's rights summit that was hosted by a feminist group.
Oh,
And I
God.
kept trying to get information on this. It's like they actually had a summit where people met with each other. And I kept emailing them. It's like, well, can I get some more information about this? You know, I'm a feminist researcher and I'm trying to write an article about this. And they're like, well, yeah, we do have some information, but it hasn't been released to public. And I don't know. I don't know if they were just giving me the runaround or if they really had nothing to show me.
Well, the problem is with feminists, a lot of times they don't like to release their information to the public. They especially don't like to release the background information to the public. Because if they release the background information, like the details of the study, the methodology, and the, you know, base assumptions and stuff, and you know, things like that, or the dialogues that took place, the discussions that took place during a summit, you know, they don't. If they release that actual stuff, then you find things out that they don't, you know, they don't want you to know, because they know that gives them fodder for criticism against feminism, and it gives you the ability to say, hey, you screwed this up, and the claim that you're making based on it is invalid. You know, you haven't proved that because you had this factor you didn't take into consideration, or gosh, you guys talked about killing men and putting men in concentration camps an awful lot at this summit, you know, something along those lines. And of course they don't want to give people that information. You know, it gives you ammo.
Have you seen the show on True called Adam Ruins Everything?
I've seen it. I saw the
I
one on circumcision.
Oh gosh.
Well, I
used to
felt
like
like he
it
didn't really
myself.
go too far on that one, but he was doing a show on nutrition and how kind of bullshit everyone's claim about nutrition is. And one of the things he talked about is having all of these new studies come out saying this or that. And he actually had someone on his show who made a bogus study about eating nothing. By eating chocolate, you could lose weight. And he did an actual study on this, and then he cherry-picked his data, released it as a study just to see if the media would pick up on it, and they did.
And they did.
And
Yeah.
even the show producers released a study on nutrition that was nothing but the actual script to the show they were filming. And they got it published. All you need is money, and you can get anything published.
There's a guy, speaking of nutrition, that I think out of everybody I've ever heard speak on nutrition, this guy is the only person that has ever made any real solid sense. And what he basically said, you know, in the short version of it was that you should avoid eating over-processed food as your primary source of nutrition, that it's better to make as much from scratch as you can, and you know, and it's not food if it comes prepackaged in a box, you know, and not to eat over-processed white bread. And he goes, your three rules for your diet are eat food, mostly plants, not too much, you know. And then he went through and defined food as not being that prepackaged crap, but actual, you know, main ingredients, like original ingredients. And that, you know, your meat servings shouldn't be huge, that your vegetable servings and your fruit servings and your nut servings should be the majority of your diet. Not that you shouldn't eat meat. Meat's not bad. But everything he said, it made perfect sense, because this is what people have been doing for centuries. You know, aside from people who lived in areas where the plants were not edible, that was the main diet of most of the human race. Eat foods, mostly plants, not too much. You know, and it's too much if your exercise routine or your life, you know, your daily life is not enough to use up the calories that you're taking in, and you get fat.
And that makes perfect sense. And one of the things that Adam Ruins Everything, he was dispelling a lot of myths, like you should drink a lot of milk. And studies have actually shown that that's not actually a good idea. It could actually hinder your health.
Yeah, because it takes the place, it makes you feel full because it's got fat in it, and then you don't eat other things that you need, like, you know, vegetables and fruit.
Well, that, and it can also lead to bone injuries or bone complications. I forget the exact word he used, but basically what's used to help grow strong bones is actually a lie, and it was just a marketing campaign, and yet most people regard it as truth.
Hey, I heard about somebody posted a video on Facebook about how they're going to be like growing meat in a lab. Like they'll take like cells from like a chicken or a cow or whatever, and it doesn't kill the chicken or the cow, and then they'll just like grow the meat in a lab, and that'll be enough to like feed the entire planet. Have you guys heard about that?
I've heard about it, but it's the way it's presented.
Yes,
it's not supposed to be a near future thing. It's this is going to happen somewhere down the line. That's kind of a pipe dream. Yeah, it can be done.
Like when I watch that
it can
video,
be done, but I always call question when they say I can't tell the difference from regular meat, and I'm like, oh, that's such bullshit.
Yeah, like it just reminds me of like something they do in a Doctor Who episode.
Yeah.
It was usually end terribly. Like that's the kind of stuff that like destroy the entire civilization.
Yeah.
That being said,
people eat this meat and they turn into zombies or something.
That being said, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I have no objection to them trying it. It's not a bad thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
if it works, it works. I mean, but all that's really going to do is probably lower the cost of that kind of meat and increase the price of natural meat. Which that's just how the market works.
It really depends on like the outcome. Like, what is the nutritional value of this new meat? Like, it's made in a lab. They're going to be tinkering with it, so they might be able to figure out a way to like make it like better than.
Well, not necessarily though. Even if it's not necessarily any more or less nutrition value compared to actual meat, the fact that they can grow it means that it can be more readily available to the general population.
it could end up being the same quality as all the other mass-produced shit in the United States.
Yeah, but it wouldn't really matter so long as that they could sell it at a cheap rate that, families that, want meat in their diet could afford it. Because the way meat prices are going now, sometimes there's a great sale, but most of the time meat prices have skyrocketed. So we do need some sort of replacement for that, because people want meat in their diets.
Well, what's interesting is going to be, because nutritional value is one thing, but there's other things that can influence your diet. And there's an article I remember reading. This is like, I used to read Discover magazine before I had to go into work when I worked at the gas station, because I used to have to be there. In order to get there on time, I had to get there half an hour early, because if I left any later than I had to leave to get there half an hour early, the traffic would be so bad that I would end up being late. It would like triple or quadruple the amount of time it took me to get there. So I'd take magazines and puzzles and stuff into them. And this article, The Inuit Paradox, ran in Discover magazine at about that time. And I'm reading it, and it was making perfect sense to me. Figuring out, basically what they looked at was the baby boomer generation of the Inuit had, like, their almost their entire diet was fat and protein. They had no vegetable matter in their diet except for seaweed, and that was like only if they could get it. And the rest of the time it was meat, and that was basically it, because they really didn't have anything else that they could. The plants that grow in the tundra are too coarse, and the fiber is too thick and too insoluble for human digestive systems to handle it. But the caribou would eat it, and then they would eat the caribou, and they would get what they needed from that. And then Gen X, basically the Gen X equivalent of the Inuit, at the time that they were growing up, fast food and grocery stores sort of flooded the area, became readily available, and you could just go to the store and buy meat. And they began eating like meat that was from the lower 48, and they were eating not grass-fed but grain-fed beef, and they were eating carbs. They were eating all kinds of things that were not in the diet that their parents had. And they have this epidemic of morbid obesity, and diabetes and hypertension and all of these other disorders that go along with becoming overweight. Even though they're still active, but they're not as active as their parents were because they can go out and buy food. They don't have to hunt for it. And they're dealing with a totally different diet. And part of the theory was what the animals, that the meat they're eating, what those animals ate makes a difference in how your body processes the meat after you eat it. And they figured that grain-fed meat actually turns into fat easier than grass-fed, or like on the tundra, the coarse grass-fed, because those grasses were particular. It's not like what we've got here. It's almost like eating shrubbery, and it was really kind of fascinating to read about that, because it's thinking about this lab thing. What kinds of ways are they going to feed this meat? Because if it's going to grow, they're going to have to feed it something, and if they're just feeding it, basically a chemical formula or a vitamin formula or something like that to give it a degree of nutrients and everything, I'm wondering if it's going to have that same kind of problem.
That's actually a very real possibility. Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. But whenever I hear about nutritional value to anything, and how, especially the vegan community or the organic food community, they kind of ascribe this idea that more nutrition has an effect on taste. But even with like organic foods, nothing has really been out there that has proven that organic foods is any healthier than, I hate using this term, non-organic. The only real difference is what pesticides are used, and since we get most of our produce from China, who doesn't have the same restrictions that the US does, we run the risk of getting it. But just thoroughly washing it off should counteract that. But there's actually been blind test studies done on the show Bullshit, where people were given food. One was organic, one was non-organic, and they would have to, just by taste alone, figure out which one was the organic food. And most of the time, they were wrong. There was even one that was the most funniest, is that a woman took a banana, cut it in half, and then served it to someone. They didn't see that they cut it in half. And it's like, well, one of these came from organic banana, and the other didn't. And the person's like, oh yeah, this one has more of a strong banana taste, where this other one is kind of like banana flavored, and like it's the same banana.
Yeah. On the pesticide thing, though, there's definitely been some changes, because and I don't think that it all gets eliminated when you wash the food. I think some of it actually gets absorbed during transit and everything, because I've started having allergic reactions to things that have never bothered me before. And I've noticed that if I get them and they're grown locally, I don't have that problem. And if the difference is in growing them locally, I don't think that it's, I'm allergic to the dirt in China. I think they're using a different pesticide, or they're using a different fertilizer or something that I'm dealing with a chemical sensitivity.
That's a very good possibility, and that's why...
I think it's a Chinese plan to snuff out Hannah Wallen.
There we go.
Well,
it's because I criticized Credit Sesame.
What's Credit Sesame?
Well, Mad Cat was going to say something, and then I'll answer.
Well, that's a very real possibility that, and forgive me for saying this, as you get older, you do start becoming more sensitive to those things. And that's why organic food should be more marketed to children and to senior citizens. And I'm not saying you're a senior citizen yet.
No, I do aspire to be a senior citizen someday, though. You have to understand, this is like every year is another hurdle for me, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's like every year is another year longer that I've lived past my supposed expiration date that I was given when I was 13.
Speaking of expiration dates,
I'm spoiled.
Yeah, that too.
Your spoiled
But
goods.
my mom would like really get annoyed at us when we try to like throw food away, and she's like, "No, it's still good. Don't throw it away." I'm like, "It's expired. It's past expiration date. Don't worry about it. It's still good. Just keep it." And I remember we had this banana that like it turned like really yellow, and then it started getting like black spots on it. And we're
Oh, that's when you make banana bread out of it.
and we're gonna throw it away. It's like, no, it's still good. It's still good. And like nobody ate the banana. It turned like a dark black.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
the
you
funny
waited too
thing
long.
about bananas is they actually don't technically go bad. They're still edible even when they're black.
Yeah. If you stick them in the freezer, they'll turn black too.
Yeah.
But they make the best banana bread if you wait until they start getting brown spots on the peel.
Well, nobody in my house likes banana bread, and like I don't like bananas. And like the thing is, like nobody wanted to eat that banana. That's why it was there long enough to get brown spots.
That's
They're
true.
ridiculously black, and like my mom's like, "Don't throw it away! Don't throw it away!"
And that's kind of how my family is.
Away.
Like, if I like making tacos and I get some tomatoes, I like to just, you know, do an even cut, slice off the end where the stem was. But it was like in my household, well, at least when I was an adult, they're like, no, just pit that out. You know, just get a paring knife and try to slice that out because we want as much of the tomato as possible. And I'm like, I can understand that, but that's a lot of effort just to have a couple extra pieces of tomato that
Yeah,
we'll
to
probably
see
end
people
up
cut up
throwing away
strawberries.
anyways because no one eats it after we use it the first time.
You got to see people cut up strawberries. Although there's a neat life hack for that. You take a drinking straw and you poke it through the bottom of the strawberry, and you poke it all the way up through the top, and it'll take the leaves off and everything. It takes the little core out.
No, that kind of reminds me of what to do with the head of lettuce. To decore it, all you have to do is slam it on its core. It's one
Yeah,
of the
and
funnest
it breaks.
things to do, and it breaks off.
Yep, and then you chop it up and you serve it all in one day. And when you want to use lettuce again, you go get more lettuce.
Yeah, my step grandpa taught me how like when he ate watermelon, he wouldn't just like take a knife and slice it open. He just like take his fist and just smash it open.
Yep. Yeah, you don't really necessarily. And then it's the stupid thing about cutting up watermelon with a knife is the outside of the watermelon is so tough, you're actually endangering yourself. You just pick it up and drop it on the table, man. It'll crack right open. Great big pieces. Then you can slice it up from the inside and you don't have to try to cut through that rind.
Yeah, but it just seems more civilized to use his knife.
But it's smarter not to, because you're more likely to slip. And yeah, like, and here's another one that sounds counterintuitive. The sharper the knife, the less likely you are to accidentally cut yourself with it.
Oh yeah, I use a dull paring knife to peel potatoes. Why? Because, well, I don't like using potato peelers because I think that's just too much work. But, you know, I'll just take a paring knife and start peeling it, but I will often hit my palm. And if that knife is sharp, I'm going to cut myself. But if it's dull, it'll still work just fine, but I can hit it against my skin and I won't get cut.
Yeah, see, but with a sharper knife, you're more likely to choose not to hit your palm. You know, but see, that's the thing with a dull knife, and if you're cutting things with a dull knife, you are having to struggle more with the knife. You're going to actually push harder, and you're going to saw more at what you're cutting. You know, not with peeling potatoes necessarily. I peel with a knife too, though. But yeah, if the knife is dull, you're actually, for most things, you're creating a greater danger that you're going to cut yourself than if you sharpen your knives and use them that way, because you struggle less, you push less, you're able to be more careful with them.
That's why I use a katana for your watermelons.
There you go.
You know,
Smash
I
the watermelon or
guess
slice
I'm
it
so
with a
used
katana.
to working with dull knives that I feel that sharper knives are more of a danger. I'm actually more careful with a sharper knife than I am with a duller knife. I'm not
Yeah.
talking so dull that it can't cut anything, but not so sharp that, you know, I just look at it and I get a cut on my finger, you know.
Yeah. That was one though that like my parents, that was one of the one bones of contention that they had with each other that couldn't get resolved, because my mom was a bit of a klutz, and the solution was, if she was going to cut herself anyway, the knives shouldn't be too sharp, because then the cut would be less dramatic. And my uncle came in with the brilliant statement that, you know, if the knives were sharp enough, she wouldn't cut herself. And then, so from there on out, there was the argument, you know, the knives, I cut myself because the knives are too dull.
Well, you know, but the thing is it's like being an electrician or anything else. I mean, if you're going to cut with a knife, eventually you're going to cut yourself. It just comes with the territory.
Well, most of my mom's worst kitchen accidents, most of my mom's worst kitchen accidents, to be honest, were immediately preceded by, "Hey, Mom!" and followed by, "Solve this problem for me. Mom, he's sitting on my side of the living room," you know, or some stupid kid fight, you know, kid argument. "Mom, Hannah's poking me right in the arm over and over again.
If you children don't behave, I'm going to cut myself and show you all the blood coming out."
Yeah, the threat was never there. But eventually we figured out, like, if we came up with stupid arguments like that, Mom would be in the middle of something, we'd holler for her, she'd turn her head to find out what was going on, and the next thing she was on her way to the hospital for stitches. Like, okay, well, we wouldn't, if we were having a stupid argument, the last thing in the world you want to do is tell Dad. Dad did not have any patience for stupid arguments. One of the worst lectures we were subjected to in the car one time, you know, the car is the worst because you're like totally a captive audience in the car. One of the worst lectures we were ever subjected to in the car was preceded by an argument between me and my brother over who would win in a fight between a polar bear and a saber-toothed tiger.
Obviously, polar bears, because they're still around for now.
Yeah. Well, they didn't actually even live in, like, when polar bears started to exist, saber-toothed tigers were already extinct. So my father, he gives this lecture. He starts out with the fact that what kind of an idiot argument is this? Those two animals didn't even live at the same time. What exactly are you going to solve with this argument? If somebody wins the argument of who would win between a polar bear and a saber-toothed tiger, you know, who wins the argument? And if you win, what do you get? What do you win? You get to be right? It was the funniest thing. But at the same time, you know, when you're sitting there, you're mad.
Go and talk to feminists and because that's how I feel.
The problem is solved. Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about porn.
Okay.
Oh, there's the big thing in. Well, sorry, you wanted to start with something.
A big thing in porn? That sounds awful.
Well, there's the law they're trying to pass in California.
The condom
and I think they have a proposition number for it now.
What is it? What's the law?
Oh, I think. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. They want to make it possible for the average citizen to be able to have a lawsuit against an actor or an actress if they're not wearing a condom in scene. And the reason why the Porn Free Speech Coalition has a problem with this is that means you could get the personal information of any actor or actress because you're now in lawsuit with them.
Now, wait a minute. So you watch porn, and you see that they're not wearing a condom, and you can sue over that?
Yes. That's the law they want to pass.
Why? What right does a third party who just gets the privilege of watching the sex act, what right do they have to dictate the terms of the actors and actresses' safety measures?
This is a big thing about California is they're really trying to push porn out. They don't want porn to exist, but they can't outright ban it because it's a First Amendment issue. So they keep creating stipulations in which they have porn produce porn to make it not so desirable.
I think that idea for a lawsuit is actually even more frivolous than the guy who broke into a school by walking out over the skylight over the gymnasium, which has a 2-story roof, walking past signs that said, "Don't walk on the skylight because it will not hold the weight of an adult," fell through the skylight, landed on the hardwood floor, broke his leg, and then laid there until Tuesday because it was Martin Luther King Day weekend, and there was no janitorial staff, and then sued the school for not making somebody work during Martin Luther King Day weekend so that they would have discovered him on Friday, and he wouldn't have had to lay there all weekend with a broken leg. Like, that it is more frivolous to feel entitled to sue somebody for not wearing a condom in porn that you were watching than that guy's lawsuit.
Yeah. It is really idiotic, and it's just because California has this history within the last 10 years of keep trying to push regulations on porn, like the required use of a condom, which, okay, on the surface it's like, well, it's for the protection, but the porn industry actually has strict guidelines, like actors and actresses are not supposed to have sex with anyone outside the industry. They have to pass blood tests, and if there's even the suggestion that someone has like AIDS, everyone has to stop working.
Yeah.
Like, everyone around, I guess, the United States will have to stop working until they find out whether or not a person has HIV and whether or not they've affected anyone else. Now, of course, there's also a difference between straight porn and gay porn. Gay porn doesn't have this restriction.
I was about to bring that up. Like, what's her face? Mercedes Carrera talks a lot about this. Every time she's on a podcast, I think she brings this up. I don't understand why gay porn doesn't have that same precautions, because I think AIDS spreads even faster in the gay community than the straight community.
Yes.
It hit the gay community first. That's basically what happened. And it's had at different time periods, there's been different groups within the subgroups within the population that it's like they've had increases in their rate of spread that has put them at the top of the class, so to speak, with that. For a while, actually, it was preteen black girls that it was hitting the hardest, and then for a while it was single straight women, and it just kind of depends. It tears through a population, and then that group becomes more cautious, and so then the next population that it hits that hasn't been cautious, that the next in line becomes the top group. And of course the rate of incidence, the new infection rate, isn't really going down. It's just that it's among different groups it'll go down in one group or another because it makes news that group is getting hit harder by it, and then people who are in that group are like, oh, I have to be really careful because my group of people is getting AIDS at an alarming rate. I don't want to be next. And I think that happened. It hit the gay community first because the disease hit the gay community first, and it was ignored because it was primarily affecting them. There was that bigotry against them and everything. Nobody cared unless they were part of the community.
Yeah, I heard condom usage, like among straight people, for obvious reasons, it went down after the pill came out. But then when
Right.
when the AIDS epidemic came back, like condoms started coming back in fashion as well.
Yeah, they did. And there were other things too, because even with the pill, the smart thing is you never use just one kind of birth control. You use the pill and the film, or the pill and the sponge, or the pill and the foam, so that you have, there aren't very many of the little guys get through to begin with, and then of the few that get through, there's nothing for them to fertilize, and it's sort of a 1-2 punch. But none of those things, nothing except a condom protects against AIDS. And then there's stuff that a condom doesn't protect against either. You can have a condom on and still transmit herpes, because herpes it's on a skin surface problem, and you don't just have skin on your genitals, you have skin on your entire body. And genital herpes actually affects areas around the genitals as well, not just like the mucous membrane parts. So you come into contact with, like, if there's open sores, and you come into contact with sweat that has some of the virus, then you transmit it, or it gets transmitted to you. And there's a lot of people that think they're safe just using condoms that'll sleep around, that engage in hookup culture, and they end up with herpes because they don't calculate for that, and they're not careful enough.
Which most of the population has anyways. But
depending on what kind, yeah.
True, very true on that one. But to answer your earlier question about why they're not concerned with it in gay porn as they are in straight porn, is if they actually started to, like, say, hey, if you have HIV, you cannot perform, most of their actors would be disqualified. And there's also this thing where, like, within gay porn, people don't want to see a guy wearing a condom with another guy. I mean, they really don't want to see it in straight porn, but they're a little bit more accepting of it in straight porn than they are of gay porn. So that's why they're very relaxed on it. But it has started to come to a point where if you've done gay porn, you're not allowed to do straight porn, because they don't want cross-contamination like that.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I wonder if all the gay porn actors have started just taking the medicine, whether they're infected or not, then. Because supposedly it helps to prevent transmission. It's not 100%, but I've read that if somebody's married to somebody, or in a permanent relationship with somebody that's infected, and that's HIV positive, that if you give the partner, there's medicine you can give the partner to help them, protect them from actually contracting it. That you still take other measures, but
it's kind of a last-ditch effort, just in case.
Yeah.
Kind of like the morning after pill.
But for AIDS?
Well, not really for AIDS, but some women will take the morning after pill even if they had protected sex, where there is no real chance that they could have gotten pregnant, but they'll still take it just to be on the safe side, just in case something got through and they don't know about it.
Yep. And then the morning after pill keeps it from implanting, and they essentially have a really, really early miscarriage.
I don't like it, though. What kind of porn do you guys like watching?
Lesbian.
That's funny. No, I don't have a whole lot of strict preferences, to be honest. It's actually, but I do like gay porn, which is kind of probably odd.
Why is that odd?
Really?
Why is that odd?
Well, because I'm female, and I'm watching two guys, and there's no woman involved in it, and women are supposed to be all egotistical and interested in watching something that caters to themselves. But
well, actually, more often than not, women tend to like gay porn.
But I'm real particular about it too, because there's gay porn where one of the guys is dominating the other one in a way that seems, it's not. It's consensual, but it seems like it's more of a force. I don't like that. I like more when it seems loving and caring and tender and kind, And I don't know. It just.
One your mother would want to watch.
No, I don't think my mom would like that at all. She's a little older than I am. We'll just leave it at that. More than twice my age, so.
Well, what's funny about
she's
me,
not more than twice my age now, but yeah.
What's interesting about me is I don't like gay porn, guys on guys going at it, because I don't really want to see a penis. I just want to see the girly parts. But I do like male-female porn. And I'm not just talking like the devil three-way where the guys don't touch each other at all. I mean, dicks are going in every hole possible. I mean, everyone is getting a turn, if you catch my meaning. So I don't like gay porn, but I like that kind of porn, so it's kind of weird for me. I just accept that I'm a very complex and weird person, so.
Yeah, aren't we all?
Yeah. I don't know why, but I'm really into like that weird Japanese porn.
Hentai?
Which kind? Because like all of it's a little weird. There's not much Japanese porn I've seen that isn't weird.
Yeah. I have difficulty with like Japanese anime stuff because it's like most of it they're trying to get you sexually aroused by a girl that's actually underage. She's like 14 years old, but she's like wearing the most skimpiest outfit, and it's like I feel like a pedophile for seeing this.
Because you're watching the wrong stuff. The stuff I watch is like, well, as far as like anime and hentai and stuff I watch is like kind of like mature MILF BBW stuff. So it's like women, no one's gonna just take any of those women for being underage.
That's good. It does suck when you kind of see the storyline is interesting or what they're doing is interesting, but the character is too young looking.
Yeah.
It might be part of that's the other thing I'm really picky about with gay porn. I prefer to avoid anything that says twink on it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm sorry, but I've got kids that age. Nope.
Oh.
You know, it's the same way with like if I watch, you know, straight porn, or if I watch something that's got a group and everything, and one of the actors or actresses looks like they're really, really young, it just, that's very, very off-putting. It probably wouldn't have bothered me so much when I was in my 20s if they looked like they were close to my age, but it's just off-putting to me if now that I'm in my 40s, if I'm watching and it looks like they just got out of college or they're still in college, I mean, nope.
Yeah, I remember like Shannon. I don't know if she's being serious about this, but Liberal Lunacy, like on one of her live streams, she's talking about how she's afraid of Asian people. Like it's a phobia she has.
Oh God.
You know,
She
I
trolls so much; it's hard to tell when she's serious.
I wish I was in the live stream with her, because then I would have made a joke about her being afraid of blurry penises.
That's true.
That's the thing I don't like about Asian porn is they blur out so much stuff, and I'm like, really?
This is a very uptight culture when it comes to that kind of stuff. And it's funny, too, because then they turn around and they have the penis festival every year.
Yeah, Penis Appreciation Day.
There we go.
Those giant wooden penises.
Well, no, it's interesting is they are uptight about a lot of these things. They have very specific rules. Like, I think they're not allowed to show pubic hair at all.
No.
I think that's one of the reasons why they blur things out. But they'll also make it easily accessible as well.
Yeah, there's condom shops that specialize almost entirely in condoms, and then they've got sex toys and stuff like that. And like on the street, the way they decorate the store, the front window of the store, at first glance, it doesn't look like that's what it is. So in '94, when I went with my Sister Cities program, you know, I was walking around with a couple of hostesses that were there to, you know, like, they were sort of translators, and they were trying to show me around the area and everything. And we're looking at different shops, and we went in a couple different places, and I see this. It looks like a giant pack of lifesavers sitting in the window, and I was like, that's interesting. I thought, oh, it looks like a Spencer's Gifts or something. What's in there? And they both turned beet red and ducked their heads and giggled behind their fingers, and they're like, we don't think you want to go in there. You know, it's not a store for ladies. Like, oh my God. You know, and I look again, and I realized that there was really nothing in the window that was like blatantly, overtly sexual, but it was all kind of like, you get sort of hinted at it. You know, there were pictures of ladies dressed up all nice and everything with this stuff, and I'm like, It's Spencer's with fashion models, and finally one of them explained to me that it was a condom shop, and I was, oh, okay. She goes, only men go in there. Yeah. Oh, okay.
And Hannah went in.
No, actually, I would not embarrass my hostesses that way. If they didn't want to go in there, I didn't want to go in there. I would have been intensely curious otherwise.
I remember growing up seeing sex shops, and I had a curiosity about them, like we're in the car, and I would like start looking at the store to see, like, because I didn't know what was really in there. I just knew it was a sex shop. And my brother's like, stop looking at it, stop looking at it. It's like, he was so embarrassed by just me looking at it.
Your eyes are going to burn out of your head. Satan
well, I think
will emerge from your nostrils.
Noticing I was looking at it.
Well, anyway, the Japanese porn I usually watch is like it's, what's the best way I can explain it? Like, if it wasn't for like some woman jerking a dude off, you wouldn't actually know it was porn. Like, it'll be like nurse, It'll be like like the nurses will be like dressed like you would think like a normal nurse would dress, So it's I don't know why I watch this kind of stuff. But it's like it just looks really sterile, very non-sexual, but they're doing sexual things.
So it's essentially erotica. It's porn, but it's got a storyline, and the storyline's more important than the porn.
Yeah, I guess so. You used to say that.
Yeah, it's erotica.
Actually, that's the kind of porn I tend to gravitate towards, is if there's some sort of plot to keep me involved with it, but so few porn nowadays has a plot to it.
Well, if you want porn with a plot, you gotta buy it. I mean, you aren't gonna go on RedTube and find porn, unless you may like there is hentai on RedTube, but it's like really strange stuff, tentacle porn, and like no. And it's the same thing with like some of the other porn sites are the same way, and there's a very limited amount of it and everything. But no, you're not gonna find much of anything with a storyline unless you actually go out and buy videos, or download them.
But truth be told is I really don't watch porn that often, and the reason being, if I do watch it, I'll probably watch it for like a few minutes and then I'm done. Because I'm not a voyeur. I'm an exhibitionist. I actually don't like seeing people in it. I mean, I used to go to like BDSM parties, and I used to actually get naked at BDSM parties. But there would be people completely naked, playing with each other, and usually sex wasn't actually happening. But there would be like whipping scenes, flogging scenes, candle wax, things like that. And I wasn't aroused by this. But I would be very aroused if I was in a scene and people were watching me. So porn doesn't really do it for me. I can like get a quick rub off, but that's about it.
Do you have your own X-Hamster profile?
Do I have my what?
X-Hamster? Have you not heard of that?
I've heard of it. I just couldn't hear you.
Oh yeah. Do you have your own X-Hamster profile?
No.
You should get one.
Again, why would I want one?
I don't know.
I'm not a voyeur, so I don't really care what other people are really doing.
No, you're an exhibitionist. You can like post your.
You could actually post if you wanted to.
Well, I haven't done that in like 5 years, so.
You can bring it back.
Not so easy for me.
Yeah, and you need somebody to do it with.
Well, that also helps as well.
Yeah.
But ever since my disability, I mean, I've tried to go out to BDSM within Pennsylvania, and it's not nearly as good as it was in Arizona. But now, especially with the whole gender politics thing, I mean, it has really invaded the BDSM community. Almost everything now is gender politics, so it's not as fun as it once was.
That would really suck.
Like, there was a party where they were... basically, if you were a woman or a trans person, you got in for $10. If you're a couple, you got in for $30. And if you're a single male, you got in for $50.
Oh, wow.
It's discriminatory, but there's really nothing you can do about it,
Yes, you can. Tell you're trans. Hey, if
just put a bow in my hair and say I'm trans.
Hey, if Milo Stewart is a trans man, then you can very easily be a trans black woman.
There you go. And with based on the way social justice policies or politics are, whatever you say, nobody can question you.
Yeah.
Say, I'm trans. I identify as a an attack helicopter.
Oh,
I'm
God.
shooting you right now. This is my no. This is I'm not naked. This is my my heat-seeking missile. Trans helicopters do not wear clothes. This is not a beanie. It's my my propeller.
I identify as a Ford Mustang. This is my stick shift.
Yeah, personally, I identify as an abstract concept that cannot be described in words, but must instead be explained using tap dance, interpretive tap dance.
You identify as a patriarchy?
My pronouns are flap, stap, slap, hop, and ball change.
Well, see, I'm also an abstract, but I can only be described in a mathematical formula that you have to go to Harvard to get.
To understand.
And my personal pronouns are pi, omega, and
Sigma.
something. I don't know.
Anyway, back to Japanese porn. Some of that stuff is like really funny. Like NC Clark, she said that she doesn't watch porn to to get sexually aroused to relieve stress, as you will. She watches it just to, like, laugh at. I fully understand that, especially when it comes to Japanese porn, because this is one kind of porn. It's like what do they call it? It's like penis washing porn, where they have this little storyline where like Japanese men, they're just way too busy to properly clean themselves.
Oh my gosh.
I can barely get this out. So they'll hire a young lady to like show up, like sometimes at their school, sometimes at work, sometimes at home, to like wash their private parts for them.
That's funny.
I would love that service.
Well, all you have to do is get old and go live in a nursing home, and you'll have somebody, and then be too disabled to wash yourself properly, and some young lady will come in and wash your penis for you every day, and then leave you frustrated.
No, that's kind of in the wrong direction. I'd want it. But porn is actually very funny. It's if you take out the fact that you're horny or trying to get off and actually just sit and watch it objectively, you'd probably be laughing your head off. It's like, oh my God, I actually get into this? What the hell? What's wrong with me?
Especially like some of the old 80s and 70s stuff where the plot line is, some guy comes to deliver pizza and then this chick is all hot and bothered, and she's ordered this pizza, and when the guy gets there she jumps him.
So
He's like,
true.
that's gonna happen in real life.
Yeah, so true to life. You know how many women just fantasize about pizza guys? They really love that minimum wage currency they're gonna get from hooking up with that guy.
Yeah, they're gonna give him a hell of a tip. But you can always guarantee that the person delivering your pizza is going to be the gender that you prefer to have sex with.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you don't often see women delivering pizza. You do every now and then, but not
God, I
very.
used to have friends that did it all the time in high school. Maybe they don't anymore. Or maybe women don't do that anymore. I don't know.
Well,
Feminists have convinced them to be scared.
I mean, I think, anytime I've ever had pizza delivered, it's probably like 1 in 10.
Yeah. I suppose since feminists have convinced so many women to be scared, they don't take delivery jobs because they're afraid to go to people's houses or something.
Mm.
They're afraid there's
What's
a penis
up with
around it.
Uber? Why is that getting such a bad name?
Well, it's not just Uber, it's taxi cabs in general. It's just Uber drivers are less protected because a lot of cab companies have started putting cameras in their cars. And so you can't use a false accusation or the threat of a false accusation to get out of your cab fare if you call, say, a yellow cab. So, a lot of women are calling Uber and they're using it to get out of paying their Uber fare. And the problem with Uber is they're not a company that people work for. They're like a franchise that people can buy the right to drive for them. and then they make their money based on collecting their fares and everything. And I guess they pay a fee to Uber for that.
I every so often I drive for Uber, and like the way it works is like every fare they take like a little bit out of it.
Yeah.
It's Uber, you get the rest.
And if the Uber guy doesn't have a camera, then he's at risk.
Yeah, that's one thing I was been worried about, but it hasn't really been working out for me simply because like it's just not that much money to make it worth it. So
I've heard that too.
Maybe if I did in like San Francisco or Sacramento or something, but it's not where I live.
You know, there's a lot of men complaining online in the Uber forums, from what I've read, that they're not making it enough money to make it worth it to risk their vehicles on the job and put their vehicles through the wear and tear.
Probably make more money delivering pizzas than you would that.
Yeah, people are better about tipping a pizza delivery guy.
I always try to, even when I'm low on money. I always try to tip, and I always feel so bad when I don't tip.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing with cabs is like, there isn't some area in town where if you are a pizza delivery guy and you deliver a pizza there, the government says they want a cut specifically because you went into that area. But if you drive somebody to the airport in Ohio in a cab, the government taxes you for specifically going into that area, and the tax is high enough that the cost of taking a cab to the airport is like double what it is taking it the same distance any other area of town. It's really stupid.
You know, the government really sounds like to me they just try to cheat people out of money every way they can, in all honesty.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's got a lot of mouths to feed, that government. Not just the obvious ones, not just the people that are on welfare, but the actual staff, all the various people that work for various government agencies, that welfare. You know, because those are basically their jobs are welfare for the most part. They're fluff that we're paying for.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for Chechnya here to say, so, back to Asian porn.
Asian porn is a lot more fun to talk about than the U.S. government.
Yeah.
In fact, perhaps we should institute a policy that every congressional meeting has to start with a viewing of Asian porn. They're not allowed to do anything until they finish watching it.
I wonder who would be most
reset.
turn red first, Trump or Clinton when they saw Asian porn.
Clinton doesn't have a soul, so
She'd just sit there.
About.
Yeah. She'd just sit there and look for a way to play victim of it, and Trump would probably just laugh his ass off. Yeah, Hillary would shoot steam out the top of her head. This is misogyny! This is so misogynistic I can't even explain! Yeah.
Oh, I saw another Japanese porn where it's like it's supposed to be kind of like sex ed. What's going on is like there's this mature woman who's like the teacher of this couple, and like they're like the couple was doing like a 69. They look like they're like college age, and so they're doing 69, and like the mature woman. She was like, well, it's kind of dangerous to directly like lick the vagina because you can get the disease. And then she's like, well, try licking the anus. And I'm thinking, it's probably better to get the disease, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but licking the anus is just as likely. If you're likely to get a disease from licking the vagina, you're more likely to get one from licking the anus. The degree of bacteria that is there. Ugh.
I mean, you might as well be licking the bottom of their foot.
No, the anus is probably still worse.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you want somewhere safer than the anus, but
yeah,
joke lost.
Isn't there a fetish for that though?
Yes, there is.
Licking, foot licking.
There's a
Yes.
foot licking? I thought you were talking about licking the anus.
There's probably a fetish for that too.
There's a meme for that. People were talking about eating the booty like groceries.
There's probably a fetish for everything. I mean, there's Rule 34. If it exists, there's porn of it. Well, for there to be porn of it, there has to be at least, somebody who that's their special interest.
Well, you know what,
That
though?
is
I
the
still
fetish for
haven't
it.
seen porn based on me yet. I'm
Like
still
you said-
waiting for Rule 34 to catch up to me.
Well, you
Rule
can't
34
make it,
hasn't
man.
caught up to me.
That's it. I'm going to make porn about Hannah. Who's
Oh, it's a race.
Yeah.
I'll have to write my own erotica involving Hannah and
Oh
the
God.
rest of the Badgers and Theron Meyer. She's gonna.
Well,
be in
I
there,
still
too.
have
There we
my
go.
story that I wrote about Hannah and Karen, but,
Yeah, see, now there is a Rule 34 of Karen, but it's Karen as a My Little Pony.
Well, I could have sworn there was a Honey Badger one where it showed a couple of members, but they were kind of non-specific.
There might be. There might be.
Here, let's see if we can find it. I won't show it on the air, but I'll show it to you.
Is it a drawing or is it
Yeah, it was a drawing.
Oh, alright. I don't know what Karen as a pony would look like. Like, what tattoo would she have on her butt?
Oh God, I can't remember which one. What they made her. The cutie mark.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can find it. I think her cutie mark. Her cutie mark
Oh,
might
here
have
you
been
go,
her
one.
cigarette.
This is one that looks like Karen. Karen is crying that she's not a cheerleader.
Oh, that's not. That's not
So that
porn.
doesn't count as Rule 34 if they're
No.
not named.
Yeah, we're not. We weren't. That was supposed to be specific of us, and that was actually the art, I think, for one of our shows.
Okay, here's one where everyone is topless. The only one I can recognize is Crystal. The others, I don't know who they're supposed to be. I'll show it to you, Hannah.
Oh, are you sending it through this chat? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I can tell you what that is as soon as I see it, because I think I know which one it is. It might not be art of us. Oh, good grief. For legal reasons, we need to point out that A, this site contains material not suited for minors, and B, cookies may be used. And I just get this mental image to do what? Persuade minors to come in anyway? We've got cookies. If you're an adult, click if you're an adult and you're okay with that.
These
Turn
people
off.
do not look familiar at all. Like,
Search tracking. For crying out loud. Can I actually just see the goddamn picture?
yeah, who are these people supposed to be, yo?
No, I don't want to add. This actually isn't. Oh, okay, I see it. No, this was not of anybody. This was a picture that was made specifically for, I think, a post about. Shit, what's their name? They're the Ukrainian feminist Radfem group that protests topless all the time. It shows up at the Vatican and yells, shut up, homophobe.
Femin?
God. Yeah, Femin. And we were talking about the ridiculousness of using nude protesting to protest against objectifying women.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
And then-
they discriminate against large-breasted women.
And then everybody that watched the show thought that the one all the way on the left was me, and then the rest of them must be other honey badgers.
Okay.
I don't know. It kind of
And I'm
looks
like-
like Crystal a little bit.
Oh, the one on the right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does kind of have the same hair, but
Yeah.
And she's also black, but
yeah.
Yeah, but she was in she's in way better shape than the portrayal of that girl, although that one's probably the best in shape out of all of them. But he was trying to draw feminists protesting, so he made them all chubby. Some one way or another.
well, how you make them to be feminist is you have like green hair on the tips.
There we go. Green hair on the
Although
tits.
to be fair, modern Medusa has green hair on her tips, so she's
There
not
you
a
go.
feminist. And she's
Now,
trying
does
to
she
take
like
back
green
the
eggs
work.
and ham? Would
I
she?
don't know.
Could she in a boat? Would she? Could she with a goat?
With a goat?
Wow.
That's the way the book
Whoa.
goes. Would you? Could you on a boat? Would you? Could you with a goat?
Whoa! Didn't know she was
Whoa.
Middle Eastern. Whoa!
Dr.
Whoa.
Seuss's. When you read Dr. Seuss from a perverted angle, it becomes really disturbing.
I should do that for a live stream. Just read green eggs and ham.
Yeah,
Me reading it, it'll sound naughty.
yeah.
Oh.
Use the Shel Silverstein voice.
Have you guys heard?
Sarah, Cynthia, Sylvia, Stout.
Have you guys heard of feminist porn?
Oh God.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I've heard of it, but I've never experienced it. Have you guys
What
watched it?
feminist porn is, there's two things. First off, it's actually called women's porn, but feminists have kind of taken it, where you see a man doing the dishes or doing
What?
some sort of housework. That's one version of it. The second version of female feminist porn is actually just regular porn, but the difference is that it's a main focus on women and it's directed by women. Other
Yeah,
than
well-
regular porn that has a main focus on women directed by men.
I was gonna say hetero porn is always focused on women, but what I had sent to me that was they said, oh, this is feminist porn, it was actually kind of mean, and it was it wasn't like BDSM has been described to me that it's supposed to be. It was really abusive toward the guy. And I'm like, I didn't get very far into it, and I was like, I can't watch this. This is terrible. But it was, and he was the slave, and he was catering to the woman's every need, and he brought her things, and he, she made him get down and clean the floor, and all this other stuff, and kicked him in the butt, and, I was just like, nope, this sucks. This is stupid. There's nothing sexy about this. It's just somebody who hates men made this, and they're getting off on a woman being mean to a man.
That sounds like regular BDSM. I don't know how it makes it feminist porn.
He was distressed, or portraying distress, I should say. Not, because I've had somebody say, well, if you understood BDSM, you'd like it better, and they sent me, like, some more tame stuff than that, and it was the slave aspect. The guy didn't look distressed at all. He was quite happy with what was going on there, and he just looked as though he was portraying himself as being humbled by it. It was a very different thing. This was like, she was being mean. He didn't like it, but he was putting up with it because that was his place, because he was a man.
Alright.
Which was, I don't know how anybody could get off to that, because I wouldn't want to see another woman portrayed that way either. I wouldn't want to see anybody portrayed that way. It sucks.
Well, you have to understand the feminist mind, or specifically the social justice warrior mind. In their mind, men have all of the power. Men are responsible for all the evils of the world. So you're watching something that's a power exchange where a woman has all of the power and the man has nothing, absolutely nothing. And that would be a very engaging thing for the person who thinks that men are the ultimate evil.
But if she demonstrates that she's just as much of a monster as feminists portray men as being, what good is it?
It doesn't matter, because they won't see it that way. They will probably still see her as being oppressed by the man that she has domination over.
Or getting a little of her own back, or some stupid. I hear that all the time. Well, it's okay if a woman beats on a man because she's getting a little of her own back. You know what? No, that's not anybody's own.
They desperately try to justify any way they can. But another aspect of feminist porn is that there's a lot more tranny porn.
Yeah, see, nobody sent me any of that.
Transsexual porn within feminism porn because they're trying to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
and trying to state that if you see tranny porn and you like regular porn, then you should like tranny porn automatically, if not more so.
Well, I don't have anything against it, but I don't have a special, liking for it more than anything else. But nobody has ever sent me that as a feminist thing. I mean, its existence predates the idea of feminist porn.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of into female and female porn. But here's the thing.
It's interesting.
Oh yeah, like I remember like a couple of years ago, like I used to go on this website called the Escapist Magazine, and somebody was trying to argue that what were they saying? Oh, that if you're a man, you're not if you're a man, you're not willing to like date or have sex with trans women, then like you're like secretly gay or you're homophobic. Not like secretly gay, you're homophobic. You know?
Well, that's
like,
stupid.
Oh, I'm not quite done yet. Like, what I thought was, I thought it was just like a stupid idea that it wasn't gonna go anywhere. It was just like on this one little forum on this website, and like I was talking to my brother about this, like like if whatever you're attracted to, that's your business. Even if you are homophobic, and the only way it comes out is you not willing to date a trans woman, like that's your business, And
And
so I thought that like I think it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago when I came across this, and so I felt like it's some stupid thing. I'm not gonna have to like hear about this anymore. And then come today, like people were talking about how like somebody wrote an article about how like this trans woman is like surprised that men don't want to date her because she has a penis. I'm like, yes, that's a perfectly decent reason not to date someone.
Well, one of the dumbest things that feminists have done, and one of the meanest things really that feminists have done to trans women, is sort of shoehorn them into this idea that they have to demand that other people alter their preferences for them. And it's mean in a couple of different ways, because it puts them in a position where, due to the criticism that people face over their preferences, if their preferences do not include trans women, they will not admit it. And so then a trans woman trying to date could very easily be stuck with somebody who has no interest in her at all and is just trying not to be, politically incorrect. And he's not going to be as close and intimate with her as somebody who is interested. And it's the same thing if she's a lesbian and another woman that she wants to be with is only into only into vaginas, and she hasn't had her surgery yet, or she isn't going to, that same thing could happen. And, especially with, like, political lesbians and stuff, they may turn around and, again, they may not give their trans woman partner the intimacy that someone who really genuinely is into her would give her. And the same thing may be happening with trans men. The bad thing with that is we're not hearing about that as much because, feminists don't seem to care as much about trans men. But that whole, you have to like this person, you have to be interested in this person, you have to be sexually attracted to this person, and if you're not, you better shut up about it. That's damaging to both sexes, because it doesn't recognize the right to refuse for the person who's not interested. And it doesn't recognize the right to expect to be with a partner who's interested rather than someone who's just being polite for the trans people.
This also expanded to fat people and fat shaming. I saw a comment once on Tumblr that said, if a fat woman comes up to a man that wants to have sex with him, he could automatically have sex with her because she has shown interest in him. Feminists kind of have this mentality of taking preferences out of the equation. As a man, specifically, you're not allowed to have preferences whatsoever. What makes you happy doesn't matter. Only what makes the opposite person happy. So it doesn't matter if it's a gay guy, a fat woman, a trans woman, or a woman who wants to abuse you. If they want to have sex with you, as a man, you're supposed to automatically take it.
Yeah, and supposedly we live in a patriarchy where women are oppressed and men have all the power.
You know what this goes counter to? This whole idea of enthusiastic consent.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they only apply that to women.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, they want like a man to, like, do whatever he can to make sure, like, a woman's, like, really really happy about having sex with him. But when you turn the page, or when you turn it around, like, a man needs to just be willing to have sex with any woman, regardless of whether he's into fat women, whether he's into trans women, whether he's into, like, old women or whatever. He needs to throw his preferences. He doesn't need to be enthusiastic. He just needs to just, get a hard on and get it done.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And it's, like, very clear from what feminists advocate versus what they say about themselves, that they view men as second-class citizens that are uppity and out of their place. Not an oppressive class that's dominating women, but they won't admit that.
Yeah, I spend way too much time on Tumblr, but there is like, Tumblr is known for, like, pornography and, like, laughing at the misery of man. But there is, like, a small section of Tumblr where, like, the shitlords hang out, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
They basically, like, talk about a lot of the arguments, like, the red films are bringing up, and they just post statistics and all that stuff. Like, I'm following, what's Permutation Ninja. Like,
yeah.
He's one of the people that Allison brought up on one of the Honey Badger streams.
Yeah, Permutation of Ninjas is great. Sir, You Are Being Mocked is also great.
Yeah, I'm following him as well. Where was I going with it? Oh yeah, some random films post talking about how women need safe spaces and men don't need safe spaces because men are protected by the patriarchy. And then, like, somebody after that just posted a bunch of, like, links and statistics about, like, how men are more likely to commit suicide, more likely to die on the job, more likely to be murdered, etc., etc., etc. And then, like, she responded with, well, yeah, but all that stuff happens because of the patriarchy. I'm thinking, wait a minute, at first you said that the patriarchy protects men. Now you turn around and say that the patriarchy is attacking men. Okay, those are two separate things that cannot happen at the same time.
But see, you don't understand it. It's because the patriarchy was designed by men for men that's also against men. See, when you say it like that...
Yeah. Patriarchy hurts men, too.
Even though it was designed to protect them.
Yeah, and then they start in on kyriarchy, which is essentially a destruction of their whole concept of a male-dominated society. Because then they start talking about, well, there's an elite class, and they start talking about the oligarchy, which is actually a more accurate description of the system we live under, but it's not an accurate description at all of patriarchy. And it kind of contradicts patriarchy on a lot of patriarchy theory on a lot of points. The main one being that all men benefit from patriarchy.
Yeah, well, feminists aren't known for their consistency.
Or their intelligence or wisdom.
Well, really, what we see within feminism is that there is no lead, there is no direction. And same thing with men's movement, but at least we're a little bit better about that. But with feminism, everyone has valid ideas. Even if it contradicts with feminism, it's a valid idea. And if you come to a feminist, it's like, well, what about this idea over here that actually contradicts everything you're saying? It's like, those are actual feminists. But they will never speak out against another feminist. It kind of feels like Animal Farm or even the fifth Planet of the Apes movie. No feminist shall harm another feminist. That's basically what it is.
They won't criticize.
I know Hannah's heard of them, but Mad Cat, have you heard of the skeptical feminists?
Oh,
the skeptic feminists?
The skeptics.
Is that the one with
skeptics.
two guys and a girl? I mean, two girls and a guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've actually tried reaching out to them to see if I could get them on my channel to have a conversation. They told me they weren't interested, though they liked the Mad Cat logo.
Alright. Yeah, like it seems like when they started out, they seemed like a lot worse, but now they're like getting closer and closer and closer to just being like almost like MRAs, in a way. But
Like
To a
three
basically,
degree, but
egalitarians that use different labels to describe their egalitarianism.
yeah,
yeah, like it seems nowadays are just like they just like the name feminism. That's why they have it. Like they talk
yeah.
about how like they do from what they say they do a lot of activism as well. Like they teach women martial arts. I don't know if they specifically teach women martial arts or religious martial arts in general, but anyway, they teach like women martial arts. They I think they also work at like domestic violence shelters or something. I'm not exactly sure what they do, but they do a lot of activism. So that's one of the things I like about them.
Well,
That's
I
pretty
like them, but at the same time, it's like some of their stuff, they still seem to really want to hold on to that feminist label as much as possible. And I have respect for them, and I don't mind an alternative viewpoint, but it still seems like at the end of the day, they still want to be a feminist. And it's despite anything that goes on in the feminist community, if you dare question that there's a problem with feminism as a whole, they kind of come at you like, well, you just don't understand what feminism is, what actual feminism is. All of these other people, they are not feminist, even though they're the mainstream, even though they're the ones. But if you actually learned what feminism is, you'd know it's not. And it's like, that's a cop-out.
Well, they'll deny the entire history of feminist lobbying and feminist activism to claim that feminism is about equality. Like,
Yeah.
if you look through history, there is not a time period when the majority of feminists' impact on society was egalitarian. There's just not. Even the suffragettes were not egalitarian, and for the record, quite a number of them were racist. They were
Well,
racist
yeah,
as
but a lot of
fuck.
people were back then. I mean, that doesn't really.
Well, see, they actually were to the point where they campaigned for women's votes, partly on the idea that it would be just awful if black men got the vote before white women did, and they were making decisions regarding white women's lives. Like, if it was the other way around and white women got the vote first, they would be making decisions regarding black men's lives that they wouldn't be able to vote about, but they didn't care about that. And then in Canada, some of the Canadian feminists that were among the suffragettes, they fought to prevent the Chinese from getting voting rights in Canada, and the same thing took place with the suffragettes in England. They all fought to keep poor women from getting the same voting rights as wealthy women, but they used poor women in their fight. They got poor women to throw rocks through windows and set mailboxes on fire and blow up churches and stuff like that. But they didn't want them to get the vote. They only wanted the upper class women to have it.
Yeah, yeah,
Because they were assholes.
I watched one of the skeptic videos, or skeptic feminists. They made a video about as a response to the questions white guys have for SAWs.
Yeah.
And the video was stupid because I'm honestly disappointed in them because I know they can do better. But the problem I have with the video, because right at the get-go, they say, well, we're not social justice warriors. We're more social justice bars. I'm like, okay, so this video isn't talking to you. Alright? And then they go on and they answer like almost all the questions as if the questions were directed directly to them. And, like, I think like one that I forgot. Nah, I gotta skip that because I don't remember what the question was. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I think TJ asked a question: why is all lives matter racist? And then one of them, I forgot which one. I think it might have been Ivy or whatever. She said that well, it's not racist per se, but it's just like it's being used in a racist way. And I was saying, so to me, that the answer to that question is no. All lives matter isn't racist because any word, any phrase can be used in a racist way.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Like you can use the term Democrat in a racist way because TJ on the podcast on the Drunken Peasants that Miley Yiannopoulos was on, he talked about how like some people in the South they use the word Democrat in lieu of saying like black or African American or whatever. Like somebody will say something like, "Oh, you don't want to go to that area. There's too many Democrats around in there."
That's funny because
so like when you use it that way, it becomes racist. So like for them to say that all lives matter is racist, and to say that well it's not racist depends on how you use it, that's becomes racist. It's like yeah, just like every other phrase in English language. And another thing what she said was like it's racist to deny people their lived experience. I'm like, no, it's not. Like it's racist if you deny their lived experience because they're black. If you deny their lived experience because you don't believe it's represented or you just think they're lying or whatever, that's not racist.
Well, it's only racist if the person is black. Like, if I deny Hannah's experience, I'm sexist because she's a woman. Doesn't matter if I think she's just plain lying about something. Because she's a woman, it's automatically sexist.
But only under certain circumstances. And social justice warriors use racist and sexist as a thought-terminating cliche. And they will apply conditions to it that they do not have to meet themselves. And I don't like using this example, but after having been raped under 2 different circumstances, I was really pressured into getting therapy by other women around me. Oh no, you're still traumatized. After however many years, you have to still be traumatized because that's what happens. And so I go to this therapist, and he was affiliated with the school I was at. And he had his like certificates up on his wall for things, his educational stuff, and one of them was that he'd gone through a certain amount of women's studies training, and so he basically called himself, a feminist trained therapist and everything. Well, one of my rapists was female. When I started talking about that situation, the guy actually accused me of changing the gender of my perpetrator because I couldn't deal with the fact that it had been a guy. She was like, and he was like, it was like, girls don't do that, so you must be making that up. And statistics show that this is not a female behavior, so you must be making that up. And I was just flabbergasted because like this happened. I knew it happened because I was there when it happened. And I'm sitting here describing it, and I wasn't really. I'm not going to say the experience wasn't traumatic, but the trauma was not a lifelong thing, and I had issues from it that I had to work through, but it didn't cripple me. And the idea that I had to be crippled because of it was foreign to me, because I had seen people go through shit that was a lot worse. And I mean, when I was 10 years old, I watched my mother almost die in a car accident. I was in the back seat of the car when it happened, and she was in the front, and she took the brunt of the impact to the point where they had to get her out of the car with the jaws of life because the car was so messed up, and to the point where she was thrown out of her seat and into the driver's seat. It was just her lungs were collapsed. She was suffocating, and being stuck in that seat, she couldn't remedy the situation. When they got her out of the car and they backboarded her, then her lungs, one of her lungs reinflated on its own, and she started getting air again. But that had a more lifelong impact on me, and it had a more profound lifelong impact on her than anything I've been through has had on me. And I just like this idea that this guy had to impose his narrative as a therapist, and it wasn't sexist when he did it because he was following a feminist formula. And it's the same thing. I was going to say it's the same thing with racism. And I've watched it on Twitter where it's not racist, according to social justice types, to deny a minority's experience if that experience contradicts their narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do agree with that point.
They use the term like Uncle Tom and like coon, which is like inherently racist because it just says that, well, because of your skin tone, you have to believe and act a certain way.
Yeah.
So, which is inherently racist. Like, I wish they'd see that way as well.
Well, What you also experienced in that moment, Hannah, is something I actually see a lot from other people, more specifically feminists. It's a version of self-serving bias. And this is one reason why it's very hard for a feminist to stop being a feminist. Like, if she's been indoctrinated from a very young age and has always believed it, and you present her with some sort of evidence that actually contradicts everything she believes, she will deny it on the principle that it can't be true.
Yeah.
And what happens is that a part of them comes to the realization, like, wait a minute, I could be wrong about everything, and if I'm wrong about that, what else am I wrong about? I could be wrong about reality itself. And that sounds a bit extreme, but people do kind of go through this thought pattern of, if I'm wrong about feminism, then I could be wrong about everything. What can I trust? And if they come to the conclusion, it's like, well, no, I'm a smart person. There's no way that I couldn't know, about these things in my life. So that means that even this evidence that is presented to me has to be wrong. Because if it's not wrong, then that means I'm wrong. And I'm smart, so that means I'm not wrong. Other person has to automatically be wrong. It's not even about logic, it's about emotion. It's about protecting one's ego.
There's more to it in some cases, though.
We all have fragile egos. We do a lot to protect ourselves, but feminists take it to a whole new level of protecting themselves. And that's why you can present evidence to someone and they'll just deny it. That's why your therapist did that. You broke his world, and he realized, hey, I'm an educated person. I've studied this, and it has to be right. So this person has to be lying. Can't even fathom a possibility in which you both could be right.
Now, there's I guess you could say a subset or a segment among feminists that are not just indoctrinated, but invested in the victim narrative too. And this is something that can happen in any cult-like organization or any cult-like ideology, where they see themselves as the underdog, and seeing themselves as the underdog justifies a whole range of behaviors that would be inappropriate if they were not the underdog. The whole idea of getting a little of their own back, essentially. They can be abusive towards the people who are the dominant group, or they see as the dominant group, because they're the underdog and it's the only way for them to sort of survive in that environment. And to provide evidence for themselves that they are the underdog, they have to be invested in this belief that the problem is systematic, the problem that they are talking about is systematic, that it's all men against all women, and that there are behaviors that are inherently male that are part of the problem. And with feminists, one of those behaviors is sexual violence. And they have struggled to avoid evidence that sexual violence is a genderless behavior, to the degree of, like, feminist research has special definitions. So they define it to exclude female perpetration in order to avoid getting evidence of female perpetration. And they disseminate that, or they distribute that all through feminist academia, not just women's studies courses, but like social sciences courses that are influenced by feminism. In the women in those courses, and even the men in those courses, get so heavily invested in that victim narrative in order to continue to have their belief system, that it's not just feeding their egos or needing to feel right or questioning themselves. It's feeling justified in behaviors that they engage in. The men feeling justified in white knighting and doing the things that a lot of feminist men do to make themselves feel better than other men and stronger than other men. And the women in engaging in abusive behaviors towards other men that are not in those groups and everything, they wouldn't feel justified in engaging in those behaviors if they didn't have that victim narrative. And so they'll deny experiences like that for that reason.
what's crazy about that, though, and
Wait,
this
hold
is
on.
something
Let me say something real quick. Like feminists, I'm pretty sure other people do this as well, but feminists like drawing a line between like men and boys. And so, like, when they talk about how, like, 1 in 5 women, or whatever the statistics happen, whatever the fraction happens to be now, 1 in 5 women will be raped in a lifetime. Like, they're basically, like, adding up the females who are, like, raped in infancy, all the way up to, like, an 80-year-old woman on her deathbed who gets raped then, which would be, I guess, the worst time to be raped. I don't know. But anyway, that all adds up into that 1 in 5 statistic. And so, like, I forgot which website it is. It might have been CDC, or they're getting their statistics from the CDC. But
Yeah.
they'll talk about how, like, the 1 in 5 women will be raped in a lifetime. They'll talk about how 1 in 6 boys will be raped in a lot, or 1 in 6 boys will be raped before they're 18. And they'll talk about how, like, 1 in, like, 71 men will be raped. And the thing is that, like, that makes no sense. If 1 in 6 boys are raped, then 1 in 6 men are raped in their lifetime. Because, like, once you turn 18, you don't automatically become unraped.
Yeah, unless the suicide rate is a lot higher than, in teenage years than we're being told, and that many boys are not becoming men. The statistics don't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just found something out here. This entire Facebook trending news team fired following Breitbart coverage.
Wow.
Facebook has fired its trending news team responsible for curating the social media network's trending news list after Breitbart Tech began to reveal their progressive biases last month. The team is set to be replaced by a team of engineers managing an algorithm, so they're going to computerize it. Facebook's trending news feature is supposed to present users with the most popular news topics being discussed across the platform, but a Gizmodo expose in May revealed that trending news operated much like a traditional newsroom, with a team of curators selecting stories they considered newsworthy. It was later revealed that the team artificially injected stories that were not trending into the trending newsfeed and routinely suppressed topics that were of interest to conservatives. In response, Republican Senator John Thune, chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee, sent a letter to CEO Mark Zuckerberg demanding answers. So actually, Congress got into this. And Facebook launched an internal investigation, according to the article. Breitbart Tech decided to show the world just how biased Facebook's trending news teams were, with a series of articles documenting wacky progressive views of some of its leading team members. And now Facebook has laid off the entire trending news staff, and they're going to use this algorithm instead.
Well, before you talk about that, I do want to get back to my point that I was about to make before I lose it. And I tried to stop you before you actually read this. Because you were talking about justification and how, feminists need to protect themselves. But what's interesting is that feminists know to some level that they are lying about this. And this is evident in Lauren Southern's video where she was interviewing feminists and social justice warriors before she had urine poured on her. But, if you look at my video analysis of it, I actually did a whole thing on it, you can actually see in their facial features how they're blinking a lot, or how they start looking around, or they get really stiff, which is indication that they are not triggered necessarily, but it's like they know what they're saying is not true. And it's actually really fascinating. Lauren Southern actually captured a lot more than, I don't know if she realizes that, but we're actually witnessing a woman who's saying, like, well, I've heard about you, Lauren Southern. You just talk about how you're all for rape and all of that, and you can tell she is lying. Because she just starts looking around, she starts blinking a lot more. I actually measured it, what her blink rate was between statements she knew to be true, or statements she believed, and ones that she knew to be false. And on some level, these feminists know that what they're talking about, even on a subconscious level, is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you find anyone who's openly for rape?
Well, I
Not
can
really.
play you my video
What's
I
that?
mean,
of her basically accusing Lauren Southern of basically, I don't know what she precisely
well,
said. I know it's something like, well, you're like, you're against female victims of rape or something like that. She was saying something outlandish that she knew to be false.
what's the old saying goes? 9 out of 10 people enjoy gang rape. No, I haven't. I haven't run into anybody that actively approves rape. I've seen a few people accused of it. The one that's the easiest to accuse is Roosh.
Yes.
Yeah, that guy's an idiot. Like I know he said it was satire, but he should have known that was going to happen.
He did know it was going to happen. He wanted it to happen.
Oh, there you go.
Because, it's like the saying goes, bad press is still good press. He knew it would piss people off. That's why he did it. And, to a certain level, it actually made sense. I mean, if you walk into a man's home, if you walk into their bedroom and not know that sex is going to happen, that's kind of your fault right there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my Wi-Fi is getting interrupted. I can see the little symbol. It's like the bars, you're going down to 0, and then there's a little X symbol that shows I have no Wi-Fi, and then it comes back. But what I was going to say is Roosh is easy to accuse, and Paul has been easy to accuse, partly because feminists are really, really good at twisting words to mean something other than what they actually mean. Like Paul Elam wrote an article about jury nullification. And the basis for the article was when a man is accused of rape and he goes through his hearing, as a juror, you cannot be sure that he has received a fair trial. You cannot be sure that exculpatory evidence was not excluded from the trial for the benefit of the accuser.
And she was lost again.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
One thing that's funny about that article is that, like, people bring the article up so much to defend Paul
I
Elam.
can't believe this. It's like the second time it's like, cut me off, now there's 2 of me here. I wasn't having this problem until I started talking about this either.
Well, you know what? I'm okay with there being 2 of you. That means one of you is not married, so...
Yeah, there we go. It's clearly it's the one on the left that's going to drop out of the conversation here in a minute. See, she disappeared. But no, yeah, and the article did not say that rape is not wrong. The article did not say that he would knowingly acquit a confirmed rapist. What it said was that he would engage in jury nullification because you could not confirm that somebody had committed a rape under that environment. But yeah, feminists bring that up all the time.
Yeah,
well, it's kind of like my video where I talked about the little boy doing the white boy privilege slam poetry, that I actually had people specifically mention on the comment section they didn't watch it and were heavily criticizing me for even talking about the subject, but they didn't bother reading it. They didn't bother hearing my video. They just knew that I was some cracker who was saying that white privilege doesn't exist.
Yeah, in order to defame Paul Elam, like, people bring up that article so often that like I rarely read articles, and so but people keep bringing it up so often that I've just felt compelled to actually read it. It's just funny because they try to use that to say oh, he just wants to legalize rape or whatever. And I actually read it's actually that's not what he's saying at all.
Rape is a social construct the way feminists use it anyway.
Well, I've also said that, if gender is a social construct, that means that sperm and ovum are social constructs.
Well, that's sex. They differentiate between sex and gender, but they differentiate based on gender roles. But
some have come out to say that sex is a social construct, so is biology, so is gender.
Hey guys,
yeah,
whoa. We've gone on for
3 hours.
I think it's 4 hours total. 3.5 hours. Basically, it's an hour and a half longer than I actually planned on going.
Yeah.
Next time I do these streams, I'm going to plan better and just have just make it a lot tighter so we can talk about the things that I want to talk about and other people want to talk about, so we don't go too long on like one particular topic or whatever. So you guys have been great. It was fun having Hannah Wallen and Mad Cat, all lowercase _.
Sorry, it's just how I like it, It's all about my personal preferences.
Biggie.
Did you see that tweet I responded with?
Where you called me master?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Hey, I am perfectly okay if you recognize me as your master.
Spoken like a true dom. Oh my god.
And then I responded to that tweet by saying, "This is a tweet that St. Peter reads to me to explain why I can't get into heaven."
Oh, that's funny.
Alright, well, I guess that ends the show for tonight. It's fun having you two, and for the people in the future, I hope you enjoyed this show, and just remember this first episode a year or so from now when I have like 1,000 subscribers. I don't know why I said 1,000 so low, but yeah, 1,000 subscribers.
So low?
That's not a bad goal for the first year.
Yeah.
I'm still.
Well, I mean, it took TJ.
I'm in year 2, and I'm still trying to get up to 500.
Yeah, most people don't make it that high, that fast.
Yeah, I actually did an article on this too.
Yeah, TJ made it to 1 million views, or not views, 1 million subs. So, if he
Yeah,
gets,
but TJ's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing I like about his videos, I can say for at least his recent videos, he has a really nice camera.
I don't watch TJ actually.
Really?
I don't either.
I used to for the longest time, but he pissed me off one time about a double standard with
Really?
gender, which he of all people shouldn't have done, but he did, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not really interested in hearing anything he has to say anymore. I just lost all respect for him.
Oh, wow.
He was basically, I guess a guy got raped, and he was like, oh yeah, I'd like to be raped, he's saying stupid shit like that, when he himself had been a victim where a woman sexually harassed him and he couldn't get any help from his job.
Yeah.
And I was like, how can you be that person who complains about the double standard against you, but you're perfectly okay applying a double standard to a man that got raped?
Yeah, I remember watching that video, so I don't know what the context was. But he did make a video where he actually was talking about how, like, I think like this 12-year-old boy had like an adult woman, like force herself on him, and then he talked about how like society reacted to like a man or a male being raped by a woman, and so yeah, I don't know, I guess maybe flip-flop, or maybe he was telling a joke previously. I don't know.
So I think some people understand the wrongness of it easier if we're talking about someone who is young than they do if we're talking about an adult. Everybody, for the most part, I mean, it's very rare for people to not recognize that, children are not as sexually developed as adults, and they're not ready for that, and that they should be protected and not taken advantage of. But when it gets to adults, there's this disconnect with a lot of people, and they don't recognize the fact that a man has the right to refuse. And
Right.
we've really skewed the discussion of what rape is. We've allowed feminists to really skew it by taking the standard from the historical standard of the act of contravening an individual's right or ability to refuse sex, because that's what it has always been considered. And that's why feminists have always protested against this, but that's why there's always been legal standards for evidence that require that the alleged victim show having protested, or having said no, or having tried to fight back and things like that. And why in like older history you had things like in some places where there were large gatherings of people, a woman who goes to that gathering alone was considered to have consented. because there might be great amounts of sex taking place there, and so she was considered to have consented, and she couldn't accuse somebody of raping her in that setting. And it's things like that, because the standard was contravening somebody's right or ability to refuse, and not going to that gathering was the act of refusing. And then, like, now we've gotten to this point where feminists have substituted the term consent, and they've taken it from a crime of intent, where the alleged perpetrator is accused of having intent to force the alleged victim, to a crime of experience, where it doesn't matter what the alleged perpetrator's intent was. It only matters how the victim felt about it, or how the accuser felt about it. And that brings up a whole host of problems. But at the same time, because we've gotten into that situation, it makes it a lot harder for men to admit that any man can be raped, because men have a great attachment to their personal agency. They're in control of their lives. They're in control of everything that they do. And so it's the idea that they not only, are complaining about the situation, but they're admitting that they didn't have the agency to put a stop to it. That they didn't have the agency to communicate. That actually is even more disturbing to a guy.
On that note,
yeah.
On that note, we're about to close out the show.
All right.
Don't leave your kids around Eve Hensler.